Please, Becky. Excuse me, councillors, welcome back for this afternoon's session of the workshop. How many more items have we got here, Peter? We've got two.
So we've got 3 items. That's open spaces now, followed by combined community facilities, which is in 3 parts: schools, libraries, halls, and then a short discussion about an additional workshop.
Right, thank you, Peter. So yeah, just moving forward this afternoon, we've been going really extremely well this morning for time, people, and please be courteous when the speakers are talking and when we have other councillors trying to get a point across. There's been a bit of chatter going on around the table, and it's difficult for people to express themselves when others are doing that. So be mindful of that, please. Now we'd like to welcome Scott up from the Waste and Green Space team.
Your Worship. We have open spaces M, that's what we're looking at now. And
Open
open spaces M.
waste and green space team.
Open space. Yes, the,
Open space.
Oh yeah, open spaces. Yeah, sorry.
If you can go to that slide, open spaces.
Sorry.
Yeah. So in terms of outcomes that we're seeking, we've got a proposed set of levels of service targets, which are really based on satisfaction scores for the different areas of open spaces. And then we've got a proposed maintenance budget and a proposed capital and one-off activities program. That's what we're discussing now, and would be some direction at the moment of discussion. So just to look at the scope of the discussion today, we're looking at playgrounds, public toilets, cemeteries, sports grounds, and parks and reserves. This is previous direction that we got from the previous workshop. So we've brought some discussion around levels of service and got direction to maintain the current levels of service. There was also a direction to consider consultation in terms of levels of service as it relates to the associated costs. There was no need to review dump station network in order to identify gaps, so we didn't progress that work. We looked at the feasibility of increased frequency of toilets, cleaning toilets, and then there was also an instruction to bring back an assessment of the status of trees and open spaces after the wind event. We had another instruction to look at options in terms of bringing back open spaces maintenance in-house, and then a funding association for playground assets. In terms of renewals, we got instruction that in terms of responding to the aging population, we do not need to do additional renewal work or introduce new assets because we currently already have a sound spaces to cater for that demographic. And then we had also an instruction to renew playgrounds on a case-by-case basis, and preferably partnering with communities in terms of funding. Go next. So this is what's in the current LTP. Looking at from FY27 forward. So this is where these is that intersection between the current LP and the LTP that's coming. So this is projects that are funded for the current LTP, and we'll just refer to them afterwards when we look at the additional work that's being requested. Go to the next.
Hang on a minute there, Cosmos. Toilets. Whiskey Gully toilet, why is it on there? We did it through our place, West Otago. It's been painted and everything, and it's not to be redone this coming 27, 28. So you can push that one way out that way.
Okay.
Okay.
So yeah,
And I want to know what the Black Gully one is.
Okay.
What's that 130 there? Is that a toilet? Is that the reserved toilet at Black Gully? No?
So what we can do is alter. Okay. So we've got these are the resulting budgets from possibly with carryovers from previous activities that have happened. So what this reflects is what the current LTP allows us to spend in those areas. So the details of the actual individual projects can then investigate how far they've gone, but this is what is available in the current LTP budget for those different areas. So this is some project that was executed, and then there's a resulting carryover budget that happened after the project was done or was not completed.
Okay, I just don't want things to go ahead that shouldn't be, there's money sitting there that does not need to be spent on those things.
Yes.
Yeah.
Could potentially be reallocated to
Yeah.
the future group we're proposing.
Well, on that same note, the Falcosa Showgrounds irrigation, I remember that coming up 3 years ago, and it's basically the inner ring of basically through the rugby club field. And so I questioned it a few years ago, and I've questioned it again now. I'm surprised it's still sitting there. It must have just got shifted forward 3 years.
It's not just the rugby club.
Through you, sorry, through you, Your Worship, it was put forward to year 4 in the last LTP, so all the team have done is represented those budgets. So that's the point of this, is you can provide feedback and it can be moved or removed. But it's used by more than just the rugby club. The showgrounds takes a hammering, but obviously the Rugby Club use it through the winter period. And it's been identified that when it has been properly irrigated, it's much better through the rest of the season. So it's a level of service choice and can absolutely be amended by the council if you provide direction.
Right, any more questions before we move on?
That was just the background.
Excuse me. Right.
So this is just a look at our current performance in terms of our resident satisfaction survey. And so currently all our areas are set at 80% target. And we feel that looking at the current performance and the trend in performance, we could change some of them to 90%. Again, I know we've already been instructed to keep it at 80%, but we could, for example, looking at playgrounds and other areas we were above 90%, we could get to 90%, but keeping toilets at 80% in terms of satisfaction target. This is what we're proposing, and the levels of service here are tied to what that is being proposed in terms of the operational budget and the one-off activities that are being proposed in the subsequent slides. So this is what we're achieving now, and for us to continue achieving now, we would need to have the budgets that are coming up in the upcoming slides.
Through you, Your Worship, I'll just confirm with the current performance, I believe, is the report we've just received in the last 2 weeks on the resident survey. Is that the case? Is those numbers?
This is 2025.
Okay. Okay. We've just received a report. It's being checked for accuracy, and will be coming to the council meeting, the resident survey, in the next month.
Okay, you can go to the next slide.
You're happy with the target performances, so you don't want them shifted. Okay.
Yeah, so if we're looking at what we're proposing in the budget and we get the green light in terms of the budgets, then we'll be able to achieve that level of service. It is maintaining that level of satisfaction. But there's an opportunity to have a discussion around if you want a scenario to be crafted that speaks to a reduced level of service, and then that can be presented in the upcoming meeting.
I'd be quite keen to come and help you with the resident survey in the cemetery. I don't know how you interview them.
Scott, you want to speak to the operation maintenance budgets?
Yeah, so we're asking for extra money for the extra cleaning of toilets, really, and new toilets being added to the cleaning roster, the Mount Stewart Reserve and at the Henley Boat Ramp, Tyree Ferry Road.
It's basically the 70,000 difference, is it?
Yep. So if we want to increase that level of service for those amenities, then that's what that would require.
I've got a question. So our new toilets, we were having a lot of problem with wet floor.
That should be rectified. We've gone and checked, done inspections, talked to the cleaner.
But sometimes, do we actually need to look at changing our cleaner or something?
No,
No.
we've got it under control.
Got it
South
under
Roads.
control?
Yep.
Cool, thank you. So we want to add 2 new toilets. Who was that, Henley? Where's
They
that?
are being
Mount
built
Stewart,
as we
sir.
speak.
Mount Stewart.
Yep.
And the new ones at the old red bridge on the old road.
Where they
Bruce.
do the canoeing.
Is
Right.
the ones at Kai, by the BMX track, do they get cleaned by South Roads?
Yep.
Are they on that conveyor?
Should be.
And that just, that'd be new ones, so would they, or haven't been hooked up that long?
They replaced
They're
those.
replacing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, the one that was in there wasn't serviceable, it hadn't been used at all.
Through your worship, the one that was there was kept locked and only opened by the old one was kept locked and only opened by the BMX club when they used it. The new ones were the old toilets that were relocated from the Balclutha Town Hall and installed there. So I'm not sure of the cleaning regime, but now they're open permanently because they're a better standard of toilet than was there previously.
We need all these toilets. Well, it's the maintenance, isn't it? Well, I mean, look at
Like,
that.
you're right, Dane. Some are locked, and people can. Some we have like codes on them that people can use, like down by Riverside Reserve by the BMX track. So that's not available for the public unless someone approaches us asking for an event. The Wilshire Bay is locked, and that's up to the community group in Kaka Point. So it's a valid option for sure.
So, I just see here Wahola, there's 3 there. East block, west block, playground. It must be so close to the boat ramp as well, yeah?
Mhm.
So, you've got the boat ramps saying condition average.
You could close it.
People can't walk 200 metres.
no.
So you're saying Risky Gully,
Well, I was.
there's 2.
Yeah, there's an awful lot in a small space.
Just on that one's right at the end of the cycle trail, isn't it? That, and the other one's way around the other end, and it's a pretty narrow drive, and in the summer it's pretty busy, so you've got kids that are at the playground, you can't really expect them to walk enough, okay?
It's just an average of $26,000 each per annum. So if we want to add to and add $70,000 to a budget, all I'm saying is, should we actually be really looking at something we don't require? And maybe that's what the public need to be asked.
Just be careful there on that $26,000 average, because some will have a lot more money.
I know,
spending than
that's
others.
right,
Definitely.
definitely.
And some, like at the moment, those extra cleans as they've needed to be required and coming out of the non-routine budget for toilets, which, is also getting eaten up by vandalism and replacing kicked, toilet roll holders and people doing, So that's why we're trying to move the extra cleans into the routine budget and increase the routine maintenance, if that's what you wish to do.
So are you suggesting that it should be something that we could be consulted on, Councillor Catherwood, or?
I'll comment. I don't think so. I mean, it's one thing, the cleaning of toilets is a very common complaint. So more rather than less, I'm sure would be satisfactory if the rate rose.
Get a lot of service requests.
Councillor Cotton.
So just to clarify, Scott, so we're paying for these extra cleanings now, so it's just changing which budget it comes out of pretty much.
Yeah, we wanted to come and make it in the routine budget. Out of instead of the non-routine. It could potentially have been overspent, not quite sure yet, but with all the other stuff that non-routine is covered.
Can I just ask a question for clarity? Because what you've just communicated, it sounds as though then if it's reduced from the non-routine, that you're not wanting the non-routine budget to be remaining what it currently is? Because that's kind of what you implied then. So just for clarity, are we saying that we're wanting an extra 70,000 to cover the additional cleaning costs whilst remaining the non-routine budgets? Or are you looking at reducing the non-routine budget to offset this cost?
No, as an extra, not reduced, yeah.
So the non-routine budget is basically for the vandalism and that sort of thing.
Yep, replacing locks,
Yeah.
that sort of stuff.
And
Yep.
the other 70 goes into the other budget for adding the new
Yeah.
into the.
It's too many.
Just through your wish, just non-routine budgets don't have to be spent as required, so we would like to have the same budget because we could have a window that we have to go and do the extra stuff, but we don't have to spend it, so if we don't spend it, we'll have remain and we'll be in surplus. Clarify that.
That's a good point, thank you. Yeah.
The, yes, public toilets certainly fall under the need to have and nice to have department. So do we give the team a bit of direction as we go through what we should be doing for the end?
We could do it while we're on it.
Yep.
Instead of going back, I mean, it's topical, we discussed, so.
Councillors, what's your viewpoint?
I'd say look to close underutilised services to maintain within the current budget. That would be my direction, personally, because I think there are on that list things to be made.
So is that an
But that's only
alternative?
my opinion, as usual.
Councillor Graham.
I think toilets, public toilets are the key of people stopping somewhere. Might not be the first one, if the
Excuse me,
toilets are
girls.
shut or they're dirty or whatever, that sort of message gets spread real fast, as it does the opposite as well. So I'd be really reluctant to be shutting any toilets, or I'd quite happily support an increase in funding as they left clean.
Any further discussion? Feedback from the staff? Go on, Larry.
Bruce is going to be shocked with actually I'll agree with That's twice today. The time I left, Bruce, next thing.
Yeah.
Your Worship, that's something I hear from people, when being a travelling person myself. First thing people look for are clean toilets, and when they go and they're not clean, they go in and receive station. It's a necessary evil almost.
Thumbs up for Mr. Councillor Nakatemi. Thumbs up. Oh, we've got a majority there. Have you never been in the position, Councillor Catherwood, when you've got to go, you've got to go?
Yeah, we still got Portaloos. Next one, yeah.
Thanks, Scott.
Yep.
Open spaces.
We're not done.
Toilets.
Still on toilets.
Cemetery.
Cemetery, yeah, open spaces, cemeteries, maintenance.
Yep, so this increase is to cover extra beams being poured, and we need to go through and put more markers on throughout the cemeteries, like plot identification markers.
Just a question, Scott. Can someone remind me what's the funding position for cemeteries? I take it cemeteries aren't self-funding, but a proportion of that would be somewhere in your paperwork, but just a reminder to us. So when you say berbs, for example, they're not self-funded by sales.
Sorry, just to clarify, do you mean beams, Scott? New cemetery beams? So new cemetery beams should be funded from reserves, not rates, because we have a reserve funding for that. But certainly markers and things like that would be an additional non-routine cost.
But these, so there's always that question mark, we assume it's all rate funded, but it's not always rate funded, right? So it's an increased cost, but in this case, part of it might be funded from a different source.
Councillor Graham.
Do we be a bit cheeky on rabbit control, and while they're still there, they've got money, try and get regional council to help fund
If I could just to update on that, we've had multiple discussions with the regional council around rabbits around Balclutha, and their response has been, if it's on your property, they're your responsibility to control them. So that we've been through that repeatedly with Balclutha, and we do undertake rabbit control on the Riverside Reserve. Kiwi Rail undertakes it on the railway line, so I'm sure we're going to get the same response for other rabbit control on that bit of the railway line, Councillor McCrosty, not on the rest of the railway line.
They do undertake night shootings at the cemetery currently, but yeah.
For rabbit.
For rabbits.
Sorry.
Well, it's the resident survey.
Any further discussion?
Councillor Scott, just as Steve's alluded to, that's like for the beams, they'll come out of reserves. So the figure that's put in front of us here, will that change? Will it be less for the rating impact than what's indicated, or are we still happily considering that?
I think we highlighted that the budget's the budget, it doesn't necessarily reflect where the funding sources are. So it is important for you to know that that wouldn't have the difference wouldn't have a full rating impact.
Councillor Kennedy.
Maintenance budget.
So, the rubbish bins and all that sort of thing, do they come out of, when you said we don't rate the cemeteries, but where do they come from? Or is that part of the, when they go around the street with all the bins in that here too?
So we do rate for cemeteries, and we also fund some of the costs for cemeteries from internments and plot sales. So part of the cost of those, in council's revenue and financing policy, it sets how much revenue we're supposed to get from fees and charges versus rates. And some of those plot sales, for example, go into our reserves to pay for new beams and capital works. But there is the cemeteries are rated district-wide through the UAGC.
274 grand we take for rates, cemeteries?
I've got IBIS in front of me. I'll just have a quick check.
And internal others of 126,000?
So looking at the current year's budgets, for district-wide cemeteries, we're rating, about 268,000 plus GST. It's excluding, and we're budgeting for $85,000 worth of internment income and about $32,000 worth of plot sales. Internal others is 124.
And interest reserves?
That would be coming out of those. What I imagine, I'll have to check with finance, but sometimes we transfer income in from those reserve accounts to fund those little bits of capital. So I'm assuming that's what that's for, but we'd have to double check that.
I'm comfortable with that amount. I mean, cemeteries, unfortunately, are always going to be the growth area. It's always going to need more room. And it is the one service that every single one of us will use at some point. So,
I'm not going
Not necessarily.
No.
well, okay. I'm totally wrong.
They possibly.
Could I actually ask could we actually have a breakdown of what that 245,503 current budget is actually made up of? Because it is actually quite a substantial amount of rating and and income coming from.
Do you want it right now, councillor, or?
Well, no, I'd
These
actually
are only
like to know what's in that
recommendations. These are only recommendations for the team to go back and work on.
Yeah, no, sure.
Just go back to Councillor McTammany's comment about cemeteries, that brings a whole new meaning to end of life.
I'm more than happy to give you a breakdown in the break, councillor Cathwood. I've got this year's budgets in front of me, or Sean can.
What we're simply talking about here is an extra $20,000 for the additional mate. The rest of it's
ticking boxes.
Yeah, ticking boxes.
Ticking boxes, winning granny.
So you'll be able to present us a bit more detail. Councillor Cathwood. Oh, you've got it right here. There we go.
Another option, could we get a trainer and get the rabbits to dig in 6 foot area?
Yeah, just so you wish,
Are we digging yours?
Yeah, it's a whole page here, we're going to go through it all. So Feast Cemetery interim 85,476. We've got cemetery plot sales 32,597. Interest reserves 22,404. Lease other 2,500 and rates 267,899. And then that's all income, obviously. And expenditure, we've got burial costs of 56,852. Depreciation on buildings, 2280. Donations and grants, 5,212. Insurance expenses, 101. Internal others, 124,170. Monument repairs, 3,000.
Overheads.
What's the internal others?
We always have this argument, councillor, it's overhead.
Discussion. Your monument repairs, 3,298. Non-routine maintenance is currently 52,878. Operating grants, 9,490.
What's that? What's an operating grant?
I have to come back to you on that one, sorry.
Don't know.
So sorry, through you, Your Worship, operating grants, we do give small grants to some other trustee cemeteries, and that's part of those.
Well, could you just go back one, please, Scott? What was the one before that? 50.
So that's the non-routine maintenance.
Non-routine. Yeah. Could you just give us an example of what non-routine is?
Yep, so for example, we might have some wind damage, for example.
Wind
Some of that
event,
will actually
tree
become
falls down.
non-routine. So
Right.
cleaning up some of those branches. We've got tree trimmings that go beyond just your standard maintenance. So let's say they've been left for a while, we have to bring in extra resources. What else?
Could be sumping in the ground. All the ways you've got to repair it. But a lot of our non-routine in cemeteries has come from the wind event.
Right.
And it's still, there's stumps to be removed in Balclutha Cemetery. It's happening soon. And yeah.
All those things that might not meet the threshold of an emergency that impact the cemetery's space, which happens quite regularly.
Thank you.
Just ask a question.
Yep.
To Jules. Jules, that trustee, the 8,490 trustee cemeteries. I mean, that's some of the community cemeteries run by communities, not.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure of the breakdown. Would have to go and look at what's been charged. These are also budget figures. These are not actuals. So this is the 26-27 budget year. So the actuals may be slightly different.
And then the trustee cemetery would, the model, they would keep their incomes, wouldn't they, as part of their budgets?
Yeah, they set whatever they charge, and then they use what their income to operate those cemeteries. So some of them have asked for a little bit of assistance, and this is where that's been budgeted for historically. So it's still collected from cemetery rates across the district and then paid out to those groups.
So you've got a few small public groups receiving 8,490 and they contribute in rates 269,000.
Yes.
The monument repairs, I didn't realise we did that.
Well, I get there'll be certain situations where something that might be in council's control that might require a monument repair. So let's say our subcontractors, for example, might damage it, we might, or that would be the case.
So sorry, just to clarify, this is actually for war memorials when we have a little bit of maintenance to do. About 10 years ago, we had quite a bit of funding in this. So, you know, this is actually where we budget for our war memorial repairs, but we don't have a lot of money in it. It's only about $3,000. So it's really only doing lettering or cleaning. We don't touch graves if they're damaged in cemeteries because there's been projects in the past, and unless you get permission from the families, that can be fraught with potential for upsetting people.
Thank you.
Councillor Graham.
We've finished with cemeteries? Or
Not
just
quite.
want to ask a question about that. Earlier on, there was written in there about funding model for depreciation on playgrounds.
Right, yeah, we've got playgrounds coming up, but any further direction, Sean and the team regarding cemeteries? Did that answer? You want more detail, councillor?
I've got 2 more lines if you want to know as opposed to. Yep, so we've got rates cost 1,716 and the routine maintenance budget, which is
132.
So the total operating cost, Sean, what's our total expenditure?
Expenditure, I would have to come back to you with that exact figure. What I can say is that I do know the non-routine off the top of my head. It's basically come at a surplus of 6,000 overall across parks and cemeteries. So it's pretty close. And if we had another week, we would have spent that quite easily. But yeah, other than that, I can come back to you.
Right.
109,000 plus GSTs in total.
Incoming, what's the expenditure?
Budget.
What sort of more detail do you want from us?
Well, just whether the
Increase.
proposed increase is something that you support for the, you know, the AAPs that are going to consultation and set the baseline for the LTP.
We could ask a question maybe that if the Waypay would like to save money, 275 grand for more models of the trustee cemeteries. So we don't have to good value, maybe. It's an opportunity.
Sorry, is that in relation to the $8,000?
No, I'm just saying that maybe there's an appetite instead of an increase in budget from the community. You've obviously got communities that are dealing with it themselves, having a very minimal impact. And we have a
I think
$267,000.
we can find those cemeteries there. You might be lucky if there's 1 or 2 burials a year.
Yeah.
Where these other ones are rather bigger cemeteries. So yeah.
I'm comfortable just to
I mean,
carry on with the recommendation.
everything's got. Sorry, has to increase.
It's 300,000.
Very good. No, very happy.
Is that the general consensus?
Is that the general consensus?
I'm not looking.
Councillor Kennedy, is that the general consensus?
Yes.
Councillor Harrison?
Yep.
So what's the general consensus?
The budget as presented in the mated budget 264.
Cool.
Doesn't mean to say that will be the end of the debate, for the case for that, forms the basis of the discussion.
Right, so this is a bigger amount for the parks maintenance, pest control, playground standards, and increased maintenance and level of service. So probably, a big chunk of that would be bringing all our playgrounds to the NZS 5828 standard. to be compliant with fall protection and, yeah, just the ageing aspect of our playgrounds.
Which is hat stage.
Yeah.
Councillor McIntyre.
Yep, so, Scott, can I ask a question? So it's roughly $460,000 increase in the budget.
Yeah.
Now, is that what you're seeing? You're starting to bring a lot of the playgrounds up to standard.
Mm-hmm.
So is that a one-off expense, or was that a long-term 400,000 per year?
So this will be the maintenance work that's required to keep them standard. And that includes, like I said, replenishing the fall protection to the prescribed level and maintaining the equipment. So we've got a staff member who can actually do the inspections and see where this needs to do some maintenance work that keeps that level. So this is the assessment that they have done, and they found that on an ongoing basis for the next 10 years, this is what needs to be done to keep them at that level. And this is in combination with other, so we've got a set of risks that we've put in the AMP and in the report. So if you look at some of the risks that are listed there, this is what the maintenance budget is trying to address. So it's not just the playgrounds, because the playground is the main part, but there's quite a number of items that they've identified as risks, and they've put in there that as part of the maintenance work that they're doing, they're proactively managing those risks. And then you get the one-off section where we're going to get to, where we've got capital work and one-off activities that will need to be done as well to manage some of those risks.
Just for some clarity, guys, that 460,000, is that over the 10-year period? So like on average 46K a year, or are you requesting that per year?
Per year. So that includes like trimming trees for power net that we have to do. The ongoing maintenance that we're underfunded at Plantation Heights to get it up to standard is still ongoing. We've got quotes that it probably needs 80,000 annually, and we've got a budget of 20.
Yeah, I'll just come back to, we can just break it out to that playgrounds though. Because you're saying that there's upgrades needed to bring them up to standards. I'm wondering what the total value of that is, because I'm wondering, well, perhaps that could be loan funded.
Capital costs.
Yeah, and if there's quite a substantial amount to bring it up to scratch, and that will have a lesser rates impact over quite an extended period of time. You'd still achieve what you'd need to do.
So we've got a set of activities that's coming up, which is more that we can classify as renewal work or once-off activities.
Yeah.
But what we're looking at now is what the team deems to be routine maintenance. So this is what needs to be done on an ongoing basis.
Yeah.
And we do have depreciation funding for the playground. So I've had a discussion with finance about that, and it's an issue of having a discussion with finance around whether that model is sufficient to cover the renewals going forward. But we actually have some reserves that we can tap into, but that's for the renewal work. For the ongoing maintenance work, I think what needs to be done is look at what the team has got itemized and see if they can come back with a different scenario that you can then have sight of in terms of the itemized things and see what the impact is in terms of the risks that they've listed and the levels of service. And that can be a consultation item or can be a decision item, a direction item.
Yeah, that would be good to have that extra money to broken down and see exactly where it sits.
Yeah.
You'd potentially make decisions on
line by line. Yeah.
Team, the thing I'm struggling to reconcile is the vast amount of money that we've put in and the community have put into lots of new playground upgrades. So, we've moved from decrepit playgrounds to, the community plan implementation side of things of a lot. It's throughout the district, right? So without, I would say, that we've had a major improvement in the age, like so many of them brand new. So the bit I'm struggling to reconcile is in the brand new stage, and there's still admittedly, there's still a mix, but in the brand new stage where we're there, I would have thought, for example, the maintenance side of things would be lower in the early years and then come through later years as a result. And I know that the 400 is not just that, but what I'm trying to reconcile is, what is the balance in that? And is that reflective of that, or has it just been like a straight line related maintenance sort of model for it? Because that's the thing, if we're thinking about, looking at savings of bits and pieces, brand new stuff's there, so why would we be spending much on maintaining it?
That's correct, Stephen. And there's an opportunity because the way the team is itemized, it also shows the locations of the playgrounds. And there's an opportunity to look at the playgrounds and prioritize them as previously done in the previous LTP and say, with this playground, for example, if it gets to a certain state, what are we going to do about it? And this speaks to the renewal and the investment that we put into it. So I think we can go back to our raw information and identify the locations that need the most investment and sort of come up with a scenario an additional scenario that is of reduced level of service, where we prioritize and maybe say, okay, if there's need to retire some of the playgrounds.
So what we're saying is you haven't done that level of detail?
We have.
No, but what I mean is if you had, then we wouldn't have had that high level of maintenance and on a straight line basis. It would be a different basis.
But it's not just the playgrounds.
I know, but what we're saying is it's hard to reconcile whether, it looks good because it's 400,000 even per year, and you've got to put a whole lot more into, let's say, plantation heights or whatever, and you're not putting it into playgrounds. We can't see that in terms of that. I also remember playgrounds, we had decisions around exiting from playgrounds, which is like you're saying, that we weren't going to necessarily invest in those because we invested in significant playgrounds, right? The Waholas, the one big one there and things like that, and the park and things like that, and we were looking to divest out of some of these so we didn't have to spend maintenance money in there. That was what we looked at, about 10 years back. So I think, particularly because it's we're trying to separate out what's the important stuff. Like we talked before about, we haven't been investing much in open space. We know the green space contract and things like that has been underdone and undercooked for quite some time, for years in fact. So we wanted to be careful around what we were presenting to see what we would need to do to bring it to standard. But you can't see what the focus is on. And also, if you are looking at the maintenance side of things that might be not on a straight line but a curve basis for things, that would make a big difference to the budget. So getting that level of detail and, as you say, getting the understanding of where they are and that. I mean, the AMPs have the details, but still can't quite understand or reconcile how a brand new one's got maintenance in the early year or years. That's all. So if we haven't done that, and it's more, methodology based, as opposed to actual status based, then we probably need to go away and just make sure we re-look at that one. Because otherwise the council will, it's a big chunk. I'd like to present to council, hey, it is necessary to do such and such, whatever it is amount for that. But if we haven't quite got that sorted, then it's very hard for council to sort of go, oh yeah, we'll go and say yes to that. Does that make sense? Does that make sense, council?
Most certainly, but it comes down to detail.
Yeah.
A bit more detail.
So this is our mowing, the mowing of our parks. It's not the reserves, just the parks that are mowed. Is that
Burn mowing's its own.
on top of that?
Okay, it is including burn mowing.
Yeah, see that's the detail we're after. It's burn mowing, park, and what else?
I think you
So
Yeah.
at the next AMP meeting, we'll bring all that detail. So then the councillor has full visibility and then discussion can occur from there.
So Parks and Reserves includes parks, burn mowing, and also sports grounds. So that's all included in their Parks and Reserves budgets. But the detail will give you the breakdown of what's being asked for.
Will that still include rubbish removal, rubbish bins?
I think it includes rubbish removal from parks, but it doesn't include it from the sides of streets. That's funded through our transportation activity.
Michelle?
Just going back to that berm mowing, because I know we did a big thing a number of years ago in Te Whanui on berm mowing. But I still think there's probably a lot of berm mowing out there that's done that doesn't need to be done. There's a discrepancy on who's getting these mowed and who isn't. Yeah, but I suppose going forward, it's just something to look at in the programs. Yeah. Should we be mowing it, or should that rate happen?
So through you, Your Worship, we have a policy that, exactly as Councillor Kennedy pointed out, when we did make those significant changes to berm mowing, that should be applied, and sometimes we just need to double check that that's still being applied. But I mean, that's potentially an area for a change in level of service if council wants to look at saving some money. Do we continue to mow any berms? But that would need to come back as part of some options assessments.
Yeah, I would actually see what sort of level of investment we're putting into berms for starters would be great. Councillor Frost.
So I presume this would fall into the level of service that will be consulted on in the long-term plan. You know, like when we're talking about some playgrounds that we should be decommissioning, because we've built new ones and things like that. So
I think, Councillor Frost, I think there's some things that we can do before we need to before the level of service discussion occurs. It's about just being, querying ourselves in terms of the age of the equipment and where does maintenance hit in terms of the program. Those things are not necessarily level of service things, they're just, it makes sense that we do it this way. And then over the top of that, then there's level of service questions that definitely would be part of a long-term plan discussion.
Let's have another question, guys. Are we liable for these public spaces with the playgrounds, or if something happens, blah, blah, blah? Or is it use at their own discretion?
No. After my recent experience with developing a playground, no.
No. So the standards have got very high, haven't they?
You're going to have the appropriate equipment in there with NZ safety rating.
Yes, and we would be negligent and in trouble if we didn't, meet the required safety standards and an accident occurred. But if an accident occurred and we've met the required safety standards, then, to extend.
So then there's probably a lot of equipment around there that's probably going to disappear, isn't it?
Definitely, yep. Yeah. And the full protection, 300 mil, and like even just signage, not compliant with signage. I'd say most of, but that's something that's relatively cheap and easy to.
dangerous playground injury at your own risk.
Yeah.
Doesn't work that way. Yeah.
We've also, our team member, Claire, that's commenced with us early in the year, she's actually set all the playground safety certification requirements to be able to inspect every playground now, whereas we did have that gap for a little while in between when our previous team member left till when Claire started. So we now have that in place also.
Councillor Graham.
Back to the earlier slide, there was one about the depreciation on playgrounds. Bear in mind that there's 3 or 4 playgrounds that are worth like 750,000 and all that sort of stuff. We've taken that into account now.
Yes, we're still finalizing the depreciation numbers with finance, but the early indication I have is that being depreciated over 10 years. So I would expect that they're depreciating that over 10 years and it's getting depreciation reserves. And that again is an opportunity for us to find renewals. But again, after we do the scenarios and optioneering around which option should we pursue, so that determines which playgrounds we will renew. If we have a look at the age and the state of the playgrounds and whether we want to renew them or not. But we do have depreciation reserves.
So we insure that playground equipment as well?
for some of the
Are our
playgrounds.
playgrounds insured?
Through you, Your Worship, the new playgrounds that have recently gone in have been insured, but we don't insure our old playgrounds just because the value's a lot lower. And that's, we replace, if we have damage, it'll go through our non-routine budgets.
Because the likes of, the new playgrounds, the value of new playgrounds in the last 4 or 5 years, insurance premiums be right up there, are they? Has any idea?
They're part of the overall insurance that you've signed off each year. So, but only those new, very high value playgrounds are insured. All of our old playgrounds are not insured.
Bill Cliff is 4,730.
Just also, team, when you're talking depreciation, if we're talking about what degree we fund depreciation, I think again that's part of it because we need to be careful about that. We don't propose that we're fully funding replacement because the our policy is that we're looking like 50-50 on things, and we work with communities. That's how we've been able to achieve such a big turnaround from 12 years ago, we basically weren't funding much at all. Now we've got a lot of brand new equipment because of the model that we put in place. So we don't intend to, I would suggest we're not intending to fully fund by ratepayer, those things again, as we'd be following the same model we work with communities. So I think we just need to make sure we don't fully fund that stuff thinking we're doing it. We're not. We need to continue with the model that we've got. So if we can make sure that's part of the looking ahead in terms of the cost.
Councillor Harris.
Random question, sorry. Some of the older playgrounds that have less than safe equipment, will they be offered to the community to look after, or will the equipment be taken away? Because I know there's a few around that are really dodgy. And as soon as the equipment's there, kids are going to try and use it.
Yeah, we have to be careful of the safety side of things. I mean, I remember, one of the dead end places we end up basically removing it from our jurisdiction, and the community still wanted to have it, and we were very clear. It's nothing to do with council anymore. It's all yours, and you better put the appropriate signage up and show that it's not our responsibility. And it was able to be done like that because it ended up being placed on property that we ended up selling, so it wasn't ours anyway. But I think we'd be very cautious about any unsafe equipment that we allow to be on our playgrounds or our land used, under a proviso that says it's you look after it. I don't think we'd go down that pathway. We would tend to be, roping it off or whatever. We've done that with some of the flying fox stuff and that now. So safety would be more important. If it doesn't meet the standard and there's a potential liability or a safety risk, we would tend to not make it available.
Yeah, we have been removing equipment in that situation as well. The one that Steve's talking about is the end of Cherry Lane in North Buccleuch.
Yeah, there's a couple up that way.
So council, just to recap, more work. We were going to do more work before it comes back. We've got some good discussion around what we need to be looking at, and then hopefully the team's got sufficient direction around what we should be looking at. Does that make sense? Cool.
And I would say, in terms of the capital and one-off work, I think it should be tied to the work that we need to look further into, because that fits into what we're going to do in terms of renewals. So I think we're going to have to look at the capital work now. We have to go back and tie it to the individual locations and the priorities of the status, and then see if we can then create those tabs for.
Can you also pick up Councillor Kennedy's point for the what's the existing baseline projects in the LTP? Those aren't givens. They're the ones we need to actually be checking that they're necessary as well. So just pull those together so that we get it's pretty clear when we get to bring it to the next one.
And when is our renegotiation on our green space contract due?
So that's currently in place now. So we're undertaking that process, and it's scheduled to present to you guys on September the 17th council meeting.
In time for the LTP.
Yeah.
So it's an extension though, rather than.
That's an extension, yeah. So it's a 5+5.
As we discussed with the transportation maintenance contract, the green space contract's aligned with that. So that's proposed to be a contract extension, but that'll come back to council to consider.
Has there anything been budgeted previously for an increase, that 5-year mark or not?
Not specifically, just cost fluctuations that were discussed before with the transportation contract. And as I think the transportation contract was running at about 20% because it's 4 years since it was put in place.
So the green spaces that are being mowed that get left off and they've forgotten to mow them.
So
You got a full list of them?
So, yeah, and then, I don't know. That's
I don't mean with you now, but you should know what they all are.
We've got a list of, so when something new comes up that takes higher priority in green space, something might fall off or have a reduction in service, so we can include that in. So we have a list of those scenarios. Outside of that, I'd have to come back to you.
Okay.
Yes, we have a layer in our GIS that includes all of those things that are included in the contract. So we can show you that at the afternoon tea break, Councillor Kennedy.
Just on that though, it is not 100%
Yeah, the old berms, green spaces. It's actually something that could possibly go back to a consultation to the communities, and instead of mowing them monthly, actually plant them out so they don't need mowed. Put them in grasses and the lights for them. One-off initial cost, and then there's no more maintenance.
Fruit trees.
Yes. Any more questions on that one? Sorry, guys.
So that means they're skipping the capital, because it was done on a different assumption.
Yep.
That's moving a few pages. What are we on to the reserve management plan program?
Yep. So this is just this is plan that we have in terms of making sure our reserve management plans are up to date. So we've just programmed them in such a way that we start the process of reviewing them just a year earlier than they are due for renewal, just to give ourselves that time. So it's going to be included in the activity management plan as well. But there's a bit of discussion to have with community services around how that ties in with our plans. But this is just to give you a picture of what is upcoming and when it's likely to happen within this LTP cycle.
How often are you statutorily required to review?
It's 10 years.
10 years. My spelling of the Catlins.
What was that, sorry, Councillor?
I just think spelling the Catlins.
Caitlin's.
Caitlin.
We'll get that right next time.
Spelling.
It's okay. All right, you're getting incorporated.
Catelyns.
My apologies for that.
No, it's okay.
You'll be part of self-employed.
Right. Any further comment?
There's an item that I want to speak to, which is the status of the trees on the parks after the wind event.
Yeah, maybe there's a couple of slides back. I think we skipped over it for the capital stuff. Yeah. So there's still ongoing work from the wind event. There's a tree in Nash Park now that's fallen over. It's being held up on a poplar, and we've had to engage with ORC because it's within 7 metres of a flood bank and go through a consent process under the bylaw. And we've had an on-site meeting with ORC as well, and there's other trees that were affected by the wind event that still need to come down in there, and also just dead trees that were irrelevant of the wind event that need to be addressed as well. So there's upwards of 25,000 worth of arborist work in there. So we've estimated probably like 10,000 is from the wind event, and 15,000 is just work that needs to be done to protect the flood bank, as identified by ORC. And yeah, we'll be looking at having emergency funds of 300,000 for events like this. So we know there's money available. We've spent, we got over 170.
So just through your worship, just to put some context into that national park.
Sorry, can you, because the people won't be able to hear you.
Sorry, apologies. So just to put some context into that one event at Nash Park, that is almost 20%. Well, it's actually over 20% of the non-routine budget for Balclutha. So why we're sort of proposing we should have a fund just for potentially green space is that we could access those sorts of events without severely impacting our non-routine, just for consideration, of course.
So, sorry, just a couple of questions. I take it none of this is covered by insurance? No? Okay, Jules knows, that's good. Secondly, we have an emergency fund already, which we can dip into by asking council. So, you know, like you don't have to have a separate one. Emergency fund is funded. It's there. Money to as we need it. You just have to request from council if it's an emergency. And then the third question I'd probably say is, you know, in respect of the timing and potential additional costs, you know, bylaw stuff in there. Have we got no options just to, you know, do an emergency works authorisation if we think that it's emergency work, so we can bypass some of that paperwork? You know, dams get them and decommissioned in 2 seconds, and that. So if we're talking about a tree that's potentially causing a danger, you know, why are we necessarily having to go through, you know, bylaw applications and things? Is there no options for that?
So you just through your worship. So in this particular case, this tree is an imminent safety risk. So we have, with ORC's permission, engaged to have that tree removed basically straight away. But in parallel, we're also having to go through the bylaw process to do an application. But we have conditions to remove the immediate danger because this thing could fall over imminently. And I guess to stretch into that, while we've sort of mentioned this fund, or even just access to the emergency fund, is to be able to mobilise straight away for those particular events. If we're potential for the council meetings, it could be another month. And that's sort of, I think that's the full pattern.
Sorry, I'll just sort of say, you can always, just because you're overspending a budget doesn't mean to say you can't ask for funding from a different source. So it shouldn't stop. If you believe something needs to be emergency, then I have the authority to approve things. And I'd certainly take the heat if there was a problem with that. And then if we felt it deserved to be funded from a different source other than your non-routine, we have options to do that. So I should have checked on this earlier, and we shouldn't have to have this discussion in that sense. But I don't really feel that we need to do a separate fund. I think we've got other ways to do the team. Sorry about that. I should have been more involved in that.
Councillor Mick.
The good news is, guys, is that in a couple of years' time you will not have to deal with the ORC.
Are you predetermining something there? Councillor McTaman.
The government already has.
Yeah, your worship, Steve answered.
Any further discussion, guys and girls? Oh, well, thank you for that, team, and look forward to seeing a bit more detail when you come around.
Yep. I've got an example like the stuff you're talking about is are we going to overspend last year's budget or this year's budget as a result of this work? This new year's budget. Okay, all right. That's fine. I was just saying when we do the annual plan, annual report wrap up, where we fund things, and we often dip into the emergency fund, you know, we make decisions. Thank you, team.
Thanks.
Thanks, team. Right, community facilities. Mike, Cosmos, and Melissa. Welcome. These guys were just time. I'm sorry.
Hang on.
Thank you, Worship. Welcome, Mike. Thank you. So this session relates to a joint community facilities AMP. So we've got libraries, pools, and halls, but we're going to deal with those separately. But up first we've got libraries. But just I guess some global comments just in terms of how we've gone about preparing the budgets, etc., in these AMPs and what's proposed in there. Basically, we've taken looked at your previous direction from earlier in the year, combined with previous decisions around facilities, etc. Milton and Tapanui come to mind. So taking those and really looked at our existing program of how we operate and said, well, basically we think that is a reasonable level of service. So that aligns with what you were telling us back in February. We've taken the actual cost to deliver that rather than budgeted costs. So we've looked back over previous recent years, I guess, to look at what it costs to deliver these things. We're not really asking for a whole lot of extra resources, apart from the things, obviously, like the likes of the new building facility. I mean, obviously, that's going to be quite a change. So that's just to set the scene, but we can dive into libraries. So that's the outcomes. Again, same thing, operational budget and capital program for this activity, as outlined in the draft AMP, and how that relates to levels of service. Again, setting the scene, library visitor numbers are increasing. Did drop away just this most recent year a little bit, but overall over the last definitely picking up, and that's across all libraries. Melissa. Slides. That's us. Balclutha makes up almost half of that. Half of the total visitor numbers across the district. So that really just shows the importance of that facility. We'll talk about that later. In terms of previous decisions, have already obviously the Elsie Stewart Library and Pool is now underway, and we've committed to the new Tapanui Library as part of the West Otago Community Centre. So that's both of those we're expecting, again, through their assumptions, that they will be up and running. We'll be operating them from sometime in year one of the LTP. So in terms of libraries, your direction was that starting level of service starting point is that we fully utilising the capacity of existing and new facilities, and as well as considering opening hours programs and costs to run those facilities. I think we increased the resident satisfaction survey goal up to 90%. I think it was previously 80%. So that reflects basically what we're achieving anyway. And the idea that we'll do condition assessments to inform our renewal programs, that's just ongoing. And the other thing you said was to explore options for the Balclutha Library, which we've also done, noting that there are some issues with that. And obviously, as I said, the user growth that's going on there. So we've assumed that visitor numbers are going to continue to increase, that the demand for our services is going to continue to increase. So we're seeing that as well, not just users, more books being loaned, more programs going on, more Wi-Fi sessions, etc. People use our library facilities more and more. That the level of service at our existing facilities, as I said, remains about the same, but that Milton Tapanui, obviously with those new facilities coming online, that's going to be sort of an improvement there. And then we're going to continue to look at renewals based on risk, condition, and utilisation, etc. So, that's what we've assumed. So in terms of the operating budget, there's a bit more detail, I guess, in the report that goes with this item. But I guess when you cut to the chase, really, so there are some significant increases in our operating budget proposed. A lot of those come from additional loan costs on those two new facilities, a little bit from Lawrence. There's some minor capital work planned for there. And the other big part of that is operating costs, particularly in Milton. But also there's some additional staff costs to run those, obviously particularly the Milton pool, I guess, but the library as well. And we've also factored in inflation from the last set of data that we have through to year one of the LTP. Again, sorry, happy to take questions as we go, Your Worship.
Any questions for Mike so far, Tim? Larry?
Through Your Worship, just your visitor numbers for libraries, what proportion of those are face-to-face and what proportion are internet?
So the user numbers are people coming in the door.
Face-to-face.
Yep.
Thank you.
Councillor McAteer.
Mine's probably a wee bit more tricky. There's a couple of those libraries I've learned the staffing policy where you need 2 people to run a small library, Tapanui and a Waka. And it has been noted that often safety concerns. Is it really that grim? Because I'm sure, Lawrence survives on 1 staff. Do those others really need 2 for similar size town? Is it really truly justified?
Our door count numbers show that, let's talk about Tapanui because that's my area of expertise.
Yeah.
A busy day in Tapanui will see 100 people through the door, which I think you might agree is probably too much for one staff person to deal with. At the other end of the day, we have children coming in after school. The numbers always get very busy after school. If we're running children's programs, which in Tapanui we do at least twice a week after school, we need 1 person to sit with the children and keep an eye on them. The other person is busy doing answering the phone, issuing books, council services and things like that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
There's no doubt, through Your Worship, there's no doubt that if you reduce staff, you can, it'll be a reduction of cost. And then there'll be a reduction of service of some form as a result of that. I mean, I think Melissa's saying, children's programs and what we've done, which is the level of service that people are expecting, the work you do for the older people around the phones and other bits and pieces and things like that. All those things have required staff to fill out. So it's a valid question. If you want to make savings in the space, and it's about reducing staff and things, then you reduce the programs and other bits and pieces. There are consequences, and we talked before, didn't we, Your Worship? Are we going to go in the library, community library space, community pool space, all that sort of stuff, and go out with, well, what are reduced health service? That's the case. So the team are just obviously the existing budgets are the budgets for the programs, for which we get a lot of satisfaction over, and people say it's really important, but it doesn't matter. There's still options for you to reduce service if that's where you want to go. And we will give people an opportunity if that's what we're intending for the LTP. We'll give the opportunity for people to understand the savings they might make and the things that will be reduced as a consequence.
The question why I asked was, are they disappointed? And people disappointed with the service they get in Lawrence because it operates online.
Well, you've noticed that that's one of the things that we have asked for, but the only real service is to finish additional 10 hours a week in Lawrence because they are a bit stretched at times. So it's still not 2 FTEs, but it's getting closer to that.
So Steve, you plan to consult the public on all activities, don't we? I mean, we're looking at transport, so what does that look like? Reduction. So we're doing it for all of our activities?
Yes, but to what extent within
libraries, pools, whole shooting match.
Yeah.
We've got to consult our public. They're the ones that want to save the pennies and stop us doing boxes.
Yeah. I mean, and whilst you're doing it for all activities, didn't mean to say that there's 50 line items of reductions because we just talked about some things like cemeteries or there's the odd one that may not get there that we may not be deciding to just throw out there, but we will have the opportunity. Yeah, I mean things that we talked about, wasn't it? We said, well, this is what it means to deliver the service.
So like a good way, when we do get a baseline starting point, which we don't have at the moment, but Sharon's very confident we're going to have moving forward. Give you an example, we could say, well, the government are talking about a 4% rates cap. We've just been through 10 years of 4% rate cap. We know what that's like, but we put it back to our departments, our activities, to say, can you function on a 4% budget of our income? And if you can't, what's going to have to go? That's what we put back to our people.
So we are going to consult with the public
Through
on
you,
what that looks like.
through you, Your Worship, you might recall in previous workshops, we've got a program of consultation, and the consultation I believe you're talking about is the consultation process that will occur next March, April.
Yep.
So in terms of what consultation questions go to the community, that will be you'll be forming those up based on these discussions and
the long-term plan
with the consultation document that will be developed towards the end of this year, and that will inform the consultation questions. In informing the consultation questions, though, we're required to make sure that they're framed in such a way that the consultation document is an easily understood document.
Mm-hmm.
So the levels of detail will need to be in concert with that, and you will decide that.
Yeah. The status quo is going to have quite a substantial rating impact. So if the public want a minor rating impact, there will have to be a reduction in level of service. That's what the public's saying.
Yeah.
They want the least possible rating impact. The trajectory we're on,
So how do we deliver?
a status quo, is not a minor rating impact. It's quite a major rating impact. So we need to be very, very aware, all the activities that we do, we allow the opportunity for the public to understand the minor rating impact does to services of activities that they are rated on. Pools, libraries, information services,
Parks and reserves.
all of our activities. Eroding, we've talked about that. There's been a lot of questions.
Yeah, so I mean, it's not, Peter sort of is correct in saying, like audit and others require us to follow a certain process and procedure and there's rules associated with the consultation document. We have to sort of, we understand that as staff, but we've got this problem that, is peculiar. It's not peculiar to us, but it is to the extent that, we're at 30% in some urban areas. It's all out there, right? And we're at an average of 20, we're the highest in the country. We've got LGFA breathing down our necks about things and depreciation we have to do. We've got all this stress around that side of it. So it suggests to me that even though there's these constraints around, what a good consultation document should look like, there's got to be, whether it's separate or it's able to be done within the consultation document, that we have a level of service set of discussion questions for the community, right? Where they have that opportunity. You're talking about councillor and councillors and that. So we've just got to work out the best way. It can't be the same as what we've done. We've only had 2 or 3 or 4 key questions, right? But that's what the sort of the law puts us towards. We'll have to pull it out and go, yeah, okay, but we need to do this. So we'll find a way to make it.
It's not going to be the most exciting exercise, but the public, the ratepayers, it's just going on and on and on. It's escalating when nothing's changing. So we've got to demonstrate to them there's a choice.
What is changing, Your Worship's affordability?
That's right. Affordability, so. Right.
Right, another slide, Peter, on operating. Sorry, it's all down the bottom there, but that is, so then you've got, didn't come out so good. But basically, you've got the operating budget for the 5 libraries all through the whole LTP. And down the bottom there, we've got the actual numbers as a total. And the first number is the 24-25 actual costs for the whole library activity. So you can see where the level of increase.
But there's no increase year by year. Is that inflationary?
No, so no, we don't know. Apparently, according to finance, we don't inflate it through the 10 years. They do that later.
Okay, right. So it will be inflated.
Yes.
What's the total we take in rates for that activity though, 3A libraries? Significantly more than that, isn't it? Currently? I thought about 2.6 million or something, wasn't it? Libraries.
Remember, this is just operating.
What's the total budget we currently take off the ratepayer for our library services?
So this has got private and foreign.
UAGC?
So just a question.
Councillor.
So basically the increase is the new health facility.
It's a fair chunk of it.
Is that well above the figure that you consulted on to the community? Yeah.
2.45 million.
Plus GST, eh?
Plus GST for library activities, according to for the 26-27.
26, 27.
So the one there for Milton, that's just the library side, that's not Paul's level.
Yeah, that's right. So we've separated through this AMP, although that's a combined AMP, we've actually separated out the budgets operating, in particular for Milton, based on the proportion of that facility, libraries versus Paul.
Was that the figure that we consulted on? To the public?
I don't believe
When you created rating examples to make a choice?
Of course it is. It hasn't changed. The budget was put out there when we voted on it that day, and
I think it is.
that'll be as it is. May change in the future, may not.
Well, I mean, this doesn't relate to the building of that facility or new facilities.
No,
This is
that's
just
fine.
our budget too, that we believe is necessary to operate libraries, and Paul's coming up
Yeah.
based on the current level of service.
Yeah. But the forthcoming budget is nothing is altered there, as we know so far. So I'm not worried about that.
Is it? Let's go back and have a look.
What do they say?
So the point of this is,
Oh, it's just changed quite significantly. The cost to the actual ratepayer of that facility on the pool side and the library side significantly changed. The effect of people's pocket has changed. Is what I'm alluding to.
yeah, Councillor Frost.
So under the figures provided here to run the Milton Pool and Library, what will be the targeted UAGC, I think we call it, rate for the Bruce Hall?
Community facilities rate.
Community services rate.
Yeah, I can't answer that, sorry.
Sorry, what was the question?
George might be able to.
I think under the consultation document it was 127 to 142 or something like that.
Sorry, what was the question?
The targeted UAGC community rate for the Milton Library new pool, under the consultation document, I think it was listed at about $127 to $142 per rateable unit. So I was just wondering, under the new, what it's going to cost to run these two facilities, what is that figure actually going to be?
Oh, you would have to calculate that. And remember, this is just the operating budget. So unless once the capital payments are in there, it'll be there. But that's why the 2.4 million of rates includes capital funding as well as the operating costs. So sorry, Councillor Frost would have to double check that. We haven't looked at that level of detail.
Yeah, my point being was, unless there's a capital over the budget for that will be exactly the same as it was when it was signed up.
We never had an operating.
No, I don't think so.
Consultation document.
Those figures there are nothing like what we were told it was going to cost to run the Northern Pool Road.
Correct.
At the public meetings that I went to.
There was no budget given to us. Right.
There was no increased budget.
No.
Over and above
The current
existing, yeah.
was minor, it was minuscule.
Yeah.
And now it comes out, it's got a $260,000 power bill. Well, that wasn't part of the business plan.
Are we talking about the library here or the pool?
We'll talk about it. Whack on both sides.
The library's got different.
We'll stick to the agenda, eh? So we've got some questions, a bit of feedback from Mike then around the operating budget. Just to spice your day up, Mike.
What's the overall rating budget then for libraries?
You're asking me?
Jules?
I said that before, 2.45. This current financial year, there was $2.45 million rated for the library.
And then next year?
So I don't have next year because we haven't done budgets yet.
That's what this process is about. I think that's what it's, but we are all very mindful that funding must balance affordability.
Perhaps Peter, if you could go back a slide, I think one. Yeah, so I guess that's, as I say, there are, so in 24-25, I have the budget as at 1.7 million for libraries, increasing to 2.25 in year one. Significant portion of that is loan costs, not just Milton, but also Tapanui.
Why is Lawrence getting a loan?
They've had a loan in this current LTP, just to do some capital work, and so which we're planning to do this year. So the impact of that would have next year, which we've included in the everything else in the operating budget.
You're right, because there's not much detail about that in this AMP, is there? About Lawrence work. There's a bit about Belcluta, but
yeah, it's probably in the current AMP. We can include that as well. Yep. More detail on that. Seismic strengthening, accessibility, and just amenity access.
Double
Fire
glazing.
is the other one.
Double glazing.
Double glazing, there's a number of, yeah.
So what you just said, what did you say, 1.7 is this year, 2.25 next year?
24-25.
24-25.
1.7, sorry.
Yeah.
Year one, 2.25, increasing to 2.42 in year two. That's when the full.
So what's year two? What?
So,
That's 27-28.
What we've assumed, and Donna might want to comment on this, is that the full cost, the loan payment cost, that's in year two. And we're, but because the library will open roughly halfway through year one, we've apportioned 50% of that, of those additional costs in year one. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Is this for capital or for operational?
For capital and some operational costs, electricity, etc., staffing.
So the capital costs, which Mike is saying, is whatever we draw down in the current year, we don't start loan funding it till the following year. So that's correct. That new facility is at this stage on target to be completed by December 2027, which is in this financial year, and so then next financial year all those costs, yes. Oh yeah, that's next year, sorry.
Year one.
And then we had assumptions from our electricity provider that it was around $255,000, the operational cost for our electricity for that new facility, in its entirety.
It's a significant increase in rates. Percentage wise,
Contributions.
best we ask the public.
286.
Well, through you, Your Worship, with this is operating costs, so we've got no choice but to pay the loan back, have we? Pay interest. We've got to do that.
Correct.
So that increase there, the green line, whatever it is across the top on page 48 of our thing, that's just pretty much, that's on top of the existing operating budget. Mike, is that right? So we've got no choice. Eh? Got no choice. No, well, it looks like you and Larry are going to have to become librarians voluntarily.
Looks like it's the front of the place.
Yeah. So I don't see how we've got to approve this. We haven't got a choice, have we? We've got to pay back the money. We've got to pay interest. How else are we going to do that?
You take it to the.
Reducing other operational overheads.
Which are cut staff members.
Their service.
Their service. Okay.
Going by this, we'll put another 40,000 under staff members when it opens. For a page. Extra staff to cater for the as it's going to be open.
Yep, so I think there's, some of that is additional staff allowance, as I said, an extra 10 hours a week proposed. But I think the other part of that might be that we've historically been overspent on salaries or staff costs. So we just say we've used actuals rather than budget.
Through you, your worship, I'm just, the thing I'm wondering is that the council voted to leave the existing Milton pool closed because we couldn't afford $135,000 in the current year to run that. How are we going to afford 1.536 million to run the new Milton pool? It's 1,000 times higher than the 135,000 that we couldn't afford at the annual plan meeting. So that's the question I have for council.
Councillor McTammany.
Well, yes, we were looking for savings that day, but there's another reality too. I thought we were still on the libraries, but
We are, so we'll just stick to the library thing.
Okay.
We'll stick to the,
I'll be on.
save it, because it's not going away, coming up the pool soon. Right, anything else around the operating budget? So Mike, it sounds like it could be a little bit of detail around that, because it's not in the actual detail in here, is it? That I've got?
In the Lawrence you're talking about?
Yeah.
For the capital renewal work, yeah, we can provide that.
You've got Tapanui in here though, didn't you? Did I saw that?
So I think we need a few. We should.
Because you see, I think there's cases that we need to seriously be looking at. Like in Lawrence, we've got an information centre down the street, and we've got a council service up the hill, on the side of the hill, that's providing a similar service without a museum behind it. So, and as a council, we're already contributing $60,000 to one down the street, and we're paying wages and maintaining, and now looking at investing money into a building, seismic and all that, and one down the street's looking at doing exactly the same. So I think moving forward, we need to be galvanising conversations within communities.
What difference in cost your worship to?
About moving forward and cost saving measures. So, yeah. Councillor.
Well, there's a few things actually. Tell you about it all.
Don't get told.
The first thing.
Good conversation.
We actually need our starting point of where we are financially, which hasn't been delivered today. We need that.
But we're not going to resolve that right now with libraries, councillor.
And we need briefing examples
libraries are looking
of
for
your report.
direction.
We need examples of what these effects of these increased budgets are. We are missing something very vital. We are missing the starting point of where we are heading with losing 51% of our income to Southern Water's done well. We need to know that starting point of residual costs. We need to know the impact of that. We need to know the impact of all of the stuff that's coming across the table. The staff don't come to us wanting extra budget for no reason. They're coming with reason. Wanting the extra budget. We need to know those impacts.
We've worked it out.
We need to know.
We've worked it out, councillor. Sharon hasn't been able to deliver that today.
No, we're getting
if she did have to deliver it today, Mike and his team and all the other teams wouldn't have had the time to give what you want. Yeah. But we're giving them direction based on the information in front of us now. So they will come back to us. We're all on the same journey. Councillor Mickey-Tam.
Yeah, just on that, we're a long way from voting on anything in the
Yeah.
GP in budgets. I mean, council were just asking for direction on different options today.
Correct.
That's what we're giving them. The dollars will come later.
Yeah, the detail.
Yeah.
But in the
Can't
meantime,
do it today.
yeah.
Through you, Your Worship, the question exactly through this part of the
Conversation.
Is there anything under the operational model that we're proposing that you would like to change as we look to finalise or further develop the libraries part of the app? I guess that's what we're asking. And as someone said, you're sort of locked in probably to some of those loan costs.
Yeah.
I know, there are potentially, as Steve said, there are things that we can change in terms of the operating model. But
You're going to have to.
We just need your direction.
Yep. So a bit of direction, please, team. Silence isn't the answer.
Through your worship, so I suppose if, if the 4% rate increases or whatever they're going to do is, what are they going to have to cut out of the budget to be at a 4% rate increase?
Just remember the
Status
environment.
quo.
The environment is we lose a whole lot of revenue, which also means that the rates drop. Right, and the question is to what extent does rates drop? That has to be determined through that first. It has to be determined by that first thing. We've already said, regardless of anything else, it's 51% of revenue, and expenditure doesn't drop by that much in that sense. But rates revenue will reduce. We don't know yet what that is. Like we're positing already. We're saying, these communities with the urban 30% are going up to near $5,000, right? And that table, so that's going to drop.
Yeah, but it's not going to drop.
No, but what I'm
because they're going to be paying on the other side, so they would have done well.
What I'm saying is you can't
Get into it.
So Ken, I'm trying to tell you that the baseline that you're asking for, why it's important, is that we aren't comparing next year to this year, right? Because it's all out the window because this year isn't comparable. We drop it down. The question that you have to ask yourselves, which is still important, is to be able to understand. Like, I mean, you could approve everything. You could approve all the additional levels of service and all that sort of thing, and rates would still drop. Right? But the thing that you have to...
Excuse me.
Can I finish?
Would the rates
please?
drop to a person that's not connected to any three waters?
Can I finish? Please?
We've had a bit of a chat at the opening. Can you please let the speakers have a bit of time and not talk over them?
Listen to the statement.
There you go again. You can't help yourself. Contain yourself, please. Steve.
What I'm trying to say is that you can approve all the levels of service additions in the world here today, and the ultimate thing will still be that rates will drop. Okay, that's what they physically will see. And then whatever you're determining, when you're thinking about a 4% cap, it'll be what is going to change in year 2 and year 3, and what does 4% mean for you. Now, doing that, what I just said to you, isn't something that is going to be sustainable with the ratepayer, right? Because the ratepayer will look at 2 different bills, and there'll be a total for the 2 bills. That's understandable. So that's everything we're working to. What I'm saying is you don't have a comparable start point. What you have in your control is what you choose to determine for the expenditure in year 1 of your budget will be your start point for which the 4% are going. The degree to which you agree that expenditure is what sets you up for that 10-year point, right? And so you will need to make those calls around what that level is going to be. But it's never going to be comparable to the previous one, right? It really is essential that you nail down what you're prepared to pay for and the level of service that you are going to accept for that baseline expenditure, for which the rates will then be starting to be calculated from then on, right? So it is essential, but it's not comparable. That's the problem, right? So that's why you do need this activity level review that says, this is what activity costs, this is the level of service we're wanting to propose, this is what we actually end up agreeing to at the end, and you just start adding those costs up, and what will be, that'll be end up what you're going to move forward. But it's just not going to be this comparable to this.
And we still have another cage to rattle, and that is when Southern Water's done well, we still have a statement of expectations, and we have the ability there still to and I'd say we're going to have to lay the law down about any price increases there.
Certainly in the early years, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah.
But back to the beginning, Mike needs guidance because he cannot produce the detail that we're after if we don't tell him what we want. So any more questions or anything for Mike and the team to take away to work on? So what, nothing, you got enough to work with?
Well, I'll take what we're going to carry on with what we've.
You're going to model
Happy with that?
4% in this year's
I've asked for a little bit more detail.
Councillor,
That's your
we're
direction.
still going to talk over us, Mike. I don't know how many times I have to tell this councillor from the Catlins, please don't talk over the speaker. Mike,
I'm happy with that, Your Worship.
you happy with that?
Yep, we'll just carry on.
What's your final direction, Mike?
Final direction,
Yeah, what is your final direction that you're going to go away and work on?
we've developed a draft AB,
Mhm.
and I haven't heard any direction to change that.
So isn't the model 4% on the existing budget? To model what that looks like? That is the direction?
Is it?
Is that correct?
Is it?
It's correct on every activity, isn't it?
Is it?
Yeah. On all the activities. That is the direction.
Is it?
Is that the direction?
Councillors, is that the direction?
That is the direction. Yep. We've talked about that with roading. We've
Yep.
talked about it with roading, we're doing it with every activity.
Well,
That is the direction.
So given that community services, sorry, Your Worship, just to clarify, the whole of community services,
Yes.
everything is 6% of your council's budget. How does that work for us in terms of libraries, which is a small, again, percentage of that 6%? Do you want us to go with that?
An increase
Well, I
of
can do
4% of its current budget is the
That's
model
we can
we're
do
on the
that.
scene.
I haven't talked to staff about this. I mean, I had a staff meeting and braced everybody for the uncertainty that's going to be when we start saying, hey, out in the public arena, there's going to be suggestions of staff cuts and everything, right? So just be prepared for that, because I have to, because that's what people, it's their jobs and lives on the line, and they have to deal with that. I have to deal with that. I have to pre-warn people. I did that yesterday. But I have to work through the senior leadership team, and we have to look at how we are going to, be proposing these little service options. And we have to remember that they're options, right? Because that's the whole point. It's like people can have their view, because we know that out there is saying you've got to cut stuff or do something. Well, let's have a look at what it actually means when you do cut stuff. So that's what we will do. So I fully intend after this workshop to sit down with people, because we're getting some direction in there, and say what is it that we're looking to put forward to start doing the homework, because we're developing the necessary financial budget I need to put forward an LTP. What we're identifying is the alternatives that are outside the LTP that people look at the consequences in terms of the savings, right? So we just need to calculate all that sort of stuff, and all the pluses, minuses, whatever, and I need to be able to say this is what they need to be calculated. So that's what we will look at.
And a lot of that can't be calculated until we get a baseline to work on.
And just as further comment, like when we that number we talk about is 4%, that is 4% over the entire pool. So doesn't necessarily mean 4% per department. It can be
Yeah.
sliced and diced in the number of ways.
Yeah, but there's two different things. One is the sustainability of a budget over 10 years, which is to try to deal with 4% cap. It's a different issue. Two, what is your starting point in terms of how far a rate's going to drop, right? So that's what I mean by your LTP will have a baseline that won't be at that level because it won't have reflected any level service real changes or anything like that, right? But so the LTP will show something. It'll say, this is what year one looks like. This is the drop in rates. It'll be, just pull something out of the air, I don't know, rates drop by $1,000 or 30%, right? But that's without level service changes. And if they have a whole suite of level service changes that you end up agreeing with, rates will drop further, and it might be 40% drop. That's how it will be reflected, because that's how it will be seen, has to be seen, because that's the environment we're in. We need to do that. So what we're trying to get from here is just get an agreed baseline, and then we'll do the homework around what the level service drops might be.
So this year's current budget was 4% as a modelling. What's that?
Well, yeah, except that we're starting from scratch on everything because we lose 3 waters.
No, of the activity. This year's budget's activity, the budget, rated budget of the activity attributed to it this year, which is the last year, they've got people are paying their rates with their 3 waters included. Get 4% of that, model that. We know that the result of modelling that is not pretty. But the public, the people that pay that money, let them decide. They want to see what does it look like.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about.
It's simple as that.
We agree on that.
No.
Well, you've gone to, this morning we started with transport.
Yeah.
You're now going to take an example to model not even an increase. You want to model a decrease.
Sorry, you're missing the point. Year one, the first year of the LTP, has nothing to do with 4%. Year one of the LTP is losing the 3 waters, trying to deal with residual overheads, the increased level of service that people are asking for just to do what we've been saying. What does that look like?
Yeah. What does that look like?
Have that out to the public about reducing the level of service or whatever you want to do in terms of the activities, so you can understand what you'll end up with. And then years 2, 3, 4 is the 4% issue, your worship. The 4% isn't something for year one because we're cutting everything and we're trying to set the thing up. 4% to year 2 to 10.
We've got to.
Sorry, you mean, is it, your worship?
Yeah, we've got to get a baseline, right? We've got to move 3 waters away. What's our income going to be? That's where I'm at. So we've removed the 3 waters, 4 waters. What is our income going to be moving forward, right? And then, but we need to be modelling. What does that look forward? Because it won't be 30% on top of what's left, what we experienced this year. But we need to know where our levels of service are going to be to measure against what's it going to look like moving forward on July 2027. If we say 4%, let's go back to the people and ask them, what does it look like? You tell us.
Worship, are you asking year 1 or year 2? You're asking year 1, aren't you?
I'm asking year 2027, 1 July.
Correct. Year 1 of the LTP.
Yeah.
Correct. That's what I'm on the same page. Thank you.
Sorry, through you, your worship, the baseline should be, once you remove the income and the expenses of 3 waters, that should be where you're at.
Yeah.
We should know that, shouldn't we? Don't we have computer systems and finance systems and that should be able to work all this out?
No, we have
We shouldn't
residual.
have to wait another 6 months or 12 months to work out what the baseline is.
Well, you won't, because Sharon's said that in this report you'll get, it'll be the baseline.
Yeah, in a fortnight now.
What it doesn't reflect is what is the proposed budgets for year 1. It's just a starting point. But all the work you're doing here, that you just said, transportation this and the rest of them, AMP that, all the operating budgets we've got to produce, it says this is what we think we're going to spend without touching, reductions in level of service. It's just what we're doing now. That's the starting.
Anyone else got a comment? I know you got something on the tip of your tongue there, councillor Cotton.
Wait a minute. Well, through you, your worship. Well, with going back to rating just briefly, we had an optimised option. That's what I see this as. It's an option, but we asked them to look at the other option as well. So aren't we doing the same thing? Looking at two options.
The lesser option was a reduction.
Yes.
We're still putting a figure around this, a 4% increase to the activity.
Well, it's going to be a reduction if we've got $1 million bill.
It's a massive reduction.
No.
No, it's a massive implication. It needs to be shown.
Right, we've been a bit hung up here. Mike, I'm sorry, but I hope you've got something to take away from Little on the front.
Through your worship, really, I'm not planning on changing anything that we've proposed in here. I haven't heard that direction in terms of the operating budget for libraries. I mean, there are a minimal number of things that we could change. We could reduce staff, we could reduce operating hours. I haven't heard that direction. That's what, but at this stage, we would carry on.
Well, yeah, I would personally actually like to see what would it look like scaled back, just so that we do have an option to put to our people.
So what, can you give me some scope around that?
4%, well, a bit of scope.
Operating budget.
But through you, your worship, libraries is a small percentage of 6% of the total budget. So I can't really control that. I mean, that's part of a much bigger conversation around roading, etc. Much bigger budget. So we can only control a very small part of the pie. So
you get 6% of the rate take.
But the budget for libraries is about, the community services budget is about 6% of council's total.
Yep, which is dollar values. Just roughly.
3.6 million.
Yes,
That's the whole department.
That's the whole department. Pools,
The last,
libraries, community development, etc.
so the last 3 years of the what's been the last 3 years average increase of the UAGC? Less than 4%. Or more. I think you'll find it's less.
But going down the rabbit hole, the UAGC is a whole combination of multiple.
No, I'm just saying as an example to the activity.
Yeah. But Mike makes a perfectly good point about 6%. I mean, you can, yeah, the big items that we still have, transportation and water. And waste is an emerging one. Yeah. The community services, we could slash it in half, and it's not going to have an equal lot of impact on our race bills. Water had the big impact on people's race bills.
Mm-hmm.
Just remember, there's an example there of rural without water, and the rates increase was between 1% and 2%. So in a way, for all our other services, that's pretty damn good. Water is the issue.
And with the residual costs that are coming.
Yes, I know that.
Yeah.
I know that. But some of these other budgets, you can chop all you like, but you're not going to have a big bearing on the affordability for people. Water's been the game breaker. We knew that 2 years ago. Let's just come back to rural without water. That would be what urban would be without the big jumps. So we've got to just, yeah.
So you suggested something next year the rates increase a bit?
No, there's still lots of things to look through. But yeah, we need that baseline budget.
Yeah, but if it costs, say, $1 million to run your libraries this year, next year it costs, let's say it costs 1.1 million, that's a 10% increase on what it cost the year before to run it. If it goes from 1 million to 1.5, it's 50% increase.
Yeah,
it's still difficult to work out.
Yeah, I know, but as a percentage over the whole rating impact, it's still not a lot. what I was talking before about slicing and dicing, there's there'll be lots of different options for all the different work streams to look at in the budgeting process. Some may have to go up, some come back. We're not there yet.
I realise that, but if they're going to come back, the level of service will come back.
Yeah, well, it depends on what we're looking at, but we just.
Well, it's either that or we're suggesting that we're going to keep the same level of service next year, but apparently it's going to cost less than it cost this year. Which is actually deflation.
Yeah, excuse me, guys. Bounce the ball here. Sorry, Mike, we'll have to get your chair shortly. So going back to a bit of guidance for Mike. Mike, you can't see any other cost savings in your department apart from levels of service.
A lot of that stuff we're locked into. You can, I suppose I can see you could close libraries. You could reduce the operating hours of libraries. You could reduce the staff numbers, which reduces your programs and your ability to help people. I guess there's some minor operating costs with that around electricity and stuff like that, but as I said at the start, we prepared this based on the direction that you gave us back in February, which is pretty much BAU in terms of the level of service for libraries, but we can change it.
Yeah, appreciate that, and please be mindful too that there's been a lot happened since back in February, and I think you're only too aware of the anxiety that's out there in our communities with the latest round of rates. But once again, I just reiterate the funding must have a balance of affordability attached to it as well. So. And we get plenty of advice on the street. I got some the other week there that during COVID, the libraries were shut the whole time. Did anyone miss them? I'm thinking, well, thanks for your advice. Come along to council and tell the whole council, not me on the street on my own. So, Councillor Catholic.
Just probably something to a comment I would like to make to Mike is, it might have been business as usual in February, but we had no quantum of the fact of the residual costs, the sunken costs. So we still we haven't got to that figure yet. We thought we were getting that figure today. We don't know that starting point figure. We don't know the impact. We've had an estimate that the sunken costs are significantly more. So hence we need to look at everything. That's what the public want. They've said there's a new council here. They're saying it out there in the public. They don't want us to go around and tick boxes just like the last crowd. They want change. That's what the public is telling us.
So through you, Your Worship, our job is to prepare an activity management plan, and a budget to go with that. And Peter will tell you, time pressure, I guess, that we're under. We've got limited chance to come back in front of you to talk about libraries, pools, halls, community housing, etc. So, if there's a particular scenario or options, changes that you'd like us to model through, this is not just libraries, but throughout this AMP, then
it's all of them.
Happy to know what those things are, because those are actual changes in terms of the way we deliver that service. We can model it.
Your Worship, I gave up there for a second. I think we're forgetting the AMPs are not the same as the consultation question. So the AMPs are getting a baseline. We need to know what do we need to materially change at the baseline. It's not the same as level of service questions for the consultation. So we did this before with transportation and that. We're going to do a different question later. You agreed on the AMP direction. That's all we're talking about for these things. The same with the swimming pool coming up. Just give us a baseline that we can start the ball rolling on, and level of service changes will be part of the consultation debate, and we will do that homework as well. But the team doesn't have to do level of service with respect investigations for the baseline. They just want to know what the baseline is, which they're presenting, that we can then feed into the first cut of the budget.
Business as usual.
business as usual is what you're recommending. I was going to say, how about no increases and just business is the same as last year?
Yep, what does it look like?
What does it look
It's
like?
taken us a long time to get there.
Your wish, but there's one thing, it's that big $1 million figure at the top. Is it business? So is that business as usual? That's extra over and above business as usual, isn't it?
The million, which million?
The down there in council, cross territory, operating costs.
Well, you need to know what the full level of service operating
Looks
costs are.
like, yeah.
That's the baseline for which you can then look at what options you might want to put in play, either to reduce level of service or to offset in some way. So it doesn't change the baseline, councillor, does it?
No, 100%, Stephen. I think I said something like that half an hour ago.
Right. We're going nowhere. I think Mike's got. He's going to carry on.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Mike.
I need to come.
Now, I'm very mindful of that.
Okay, can we go to the next slide, please? And one after that. So that's the operational budget. So we have a capital program. A lot of this stuff is, as I said before, already underway. So that's Milton Library, Tapanui Library. Talked about some minor stuff in Lawrence. What we've also proposed here, based on the discussion we had in February, was around renewal and upgrade work at the Balclutha Library, given some limitations that we have with that. So, and that's what we've included in this app in year 2 and 3 at this stage. So year 2 is around investigation, so looking at design, getting consent, doing anything we need to do to get prepared for that, and then year 3 will be where we look to start construction stage. So that's the program that we're proposing. You go to the next slide. So you can see what that looks like. And so we've there's quite a bit of information, I guess, attached in the report for this in terms of the Balclutha Library. Really, there isn't a huge capital program proposed across the library's activity apart from Balclutha. Mainly because Tapanui is going to be a leased facility, it won't be our building, so we don't have to look to capital upgrades on that. Same with Owaka. We're going to have a brand new facility in Milton, not expected to do much there. And Lawrence is getting a little bit of work on it, as I say. So that year 3 is where that big cost would hit for Balclutha. See if we can maybe move on. So yeah, just talking about that Balclutha option. Objective here, as I say, is to increase the footprint of the library, which is growth, and reconfigure the existing building to relieve the cramped working conditions renewal. I think I've got a photo that provided me on the next slide, but there it is. So we've got 8 people working in a very cramped space down there at the moment. So if we just go back again though, Peter, please. So we've come up with what we think is a long-term solution that doesn't involve upping sticks and moving somewhere else, but that can be done with a relatively short space of time and with a roughly $1 million budget as I've laid out there. So just, as I say, there's more information in the report, but just in a nutshell, what that looks like is a new sort of office space, staff room. Staff really don't really have a staff room at the kitchen at the moment. It's tiny. So there's a new building out the back on the green space on the lawn there, and it's reconfiguring the existing library because the public toilets and the staff toilets are very average at the moment, and they're just cramped and it's not ideal. So this, as I say, reconfiguring the existing building add some additional space as well for them to move into. Happy to take questions.
Questions for Mike, please. Councillors. I've got one for you, Mike, if that's all right. Regarding the facility down there. Can they last another year or two?
Melissa's nodding.
Have they been
This
there?
is until 2029.
Pardon?
It's not starting until 2029, 2030 construction, so it's still be 3 years.
The unitary councils.
That's what I'm saying. Well, then can we shift it from 29 through to 30, 31 is the question now. Rephrase that.
I've been down there and, seen how those.
What's the
those
tone?
guys work. It's not great. They, they've been pretty patient for a long time. I know, I guess once, and it's going to be a slightly different world when the new Milton facility opens. Look at that compared to what our main library is looking like.
Good, relative to, before we were talking 100 people going through Tapanui, what's the foot traffic, what's the door count down there?
I had that earlier on, didn't I? I said that it was about half the overall traffic. You go back quite a few slides, Peter.
Yeah.
51,000, 52,000.
There it is. 52,000. More than 50,000 a year. I worked that out. Yeah. 57 years ago. A year ago.
A lot of people, wasn't it? Councillor Smith.
So, Your Worship, I've been down there a fair bit myself in the past too, but is there an option, just because of this environment we're in, that we could look at it costing to upgrade the toilets and perhaps a smoker room to the side, and just revamp your office? Like I see, you got 8 banana boxes sitting there empty and it's all crowded on that, but where the health and safety for your staff, the toilets in public, is an option, because I'm not sure the public are going to want us to spend a lot more money upgrading the library where it's sort of fit for purpose, but that needs a wee bit tidied up.
Through Your Worship, I guess the option that we've looked at is not, it's not gold plated, I wouldn't say. It's a fairly simple option. Create some additional space, but yes, you're right. We could, I guess, go back and look at doing it within a smaller budget. Absolutely.
Taking in mind your toilets and that, and perhaps a eating room, which you probably should have.
Toilets tend to be expensive. The problem is within the existing footprint, there's no space. So you're going to need, if you want to really do much, you need more space. And if you're going to create more space, well, it's probably easy to do it once.
And what's in the container that's out there? Is it stuff that's quite valuable?
Mostly. And the container up the back is mostly books that are taken off the shelf in order that we put new books on the shelf. So we sell those once a year in the book sale.
So are the books actually all right in the container? Because most containers get condensation.
Yeah, no, they're fine. We've had it there for several years now, and the books that are turning up in the book sale, which we run in very good quality.
Councillor McCann.
Yeah, I'm going to say leave that money in there. We're not talking about an investigation in 2029. That's 3 years away before a decision, and then we'll make our minds up then.
That's the spirit, Councillor McCann. You're very decisive.
We don't need
convincing.
Yeah, leave it there. It's in there. Leave it there. The decision's not for another 3 years.
Wish every item was as simple as that. It might just please the staff down there, we really appreciate what they do, and that, but geez, it's tough times and everyone's under the microscope. So it's not certainly by no means a cut at the staff. It's just pretty tough going.
Does the budget for investigations, does that come out of existing budget?
We're asking for 50K to be put aside in year 2 for that. That's chair coming up with some options, some more detailed options for you to look at.
Because it's a historical building, isn't it, Carnegie?
Oh, yeah. Very, very front.
Yeah.
All of this is to do outside.
Which, sorry, we've already done all that strengthening work for that. We've updated the roof. We've put through a whole heat pump and evac system. We've made it sound, earthquake sound and proof, and health and safety upgrades were done as well.
Right, well, any further discussion on that? Does everybody agree with councillor McAtamaney? Lovely. We've still got another couple more with Mike to go. We need to have a bit of a stretch first.
Yeah.
Should we adjourn and grab a quick cup of coffee and have a stretch and then come back? Well, it's 20 to 4 now. I think if we come back at 10 to 4, time for a stretch and a coffee. liven it up, please. Vicky. Lovely. Welcome back, everybody. Have your coffee, stretch. Right. Back to community facilities. Mike.
Thank you, Your Worship, and got Holly here as well. And
Welcome, Holly.
Thank you. So I guess a lot of the previous conversation relates to the board's activity and to some extent as well, but we'll run through the slides. The outcomes are the same as the previous slides. The direction on the operational budget, the proposed capital program, and just how that relates to levels of service for toilets.
Same direction.
So some background for Holly.
That's how we get out of it.
Okay, so that's just showing that in the Balclutha pool, that the user numbers are increasing and have been over the last 4 years. In particular, if you look down the bottom left, users per day, which is probably a more useful indicator. Because obviously, if we do end up closing, it does happen.
We have different maintenance periods.
Depending on when that happens, that can affect their overall users for the year. But I think you can see that when it's open, more people are using that pool. Yeah. And again, as before, there was a Stewart Library and Pool that is well underway. Year one, LTV. We're expecting to be operating at. Similar direction you gave us back in February, which is how we've looked to develop this part of the AMP. Basically saying that we're looking at existing usage, and obviously that the Milton pool will have a significant increase in usage compared to what we had in previous years. Next slide, please. So we've assumed that user numbers will continue to increase. As I said, level of service for Balclutha will just continue as it is. Not going to change too much there. This is going to really increase at Milton, as I said. We've assumed that in order to ensure that the Balclutha pool can remain open for longer, and we'd start to address some of these breakdowns, issues, ongoing, urgent work that's required, that we really need to step up our renewal program at Balclutha. So luckily we've got some good information around that, and we've included that in this draft. And so there are some large, again, as per libraries, there are some large increases in the operating budget at Milton. Not really at Balclutha, but certainly at Milton. And same conversations, those increases are due to additional loan costs and other financial expenses that go with that, insurance, for example, electricity cost, as we said, and obviously that facility we're planning to be open for
12 months of the year.
12 months of the year, yeah, and for basically a similar operating model to Balclutha.
Yeah, we'll put in the budget the same as Balclutha pool as level of service, but possibly Milton councillors might have a view on what your community expects.
Questions on that? Question on that would be is consultation that you went out to the public for building this facility. Is that the same budget that you have here, operating budget you have here?
Through you, Your Worship, that's a really good question, Councillor Catherwood. So if you refer back to the 2024 Bruce Community Facility Consultation document, the loan funding option we had for funding 15.5 million had $73 additional cost on the UAGC and $264 additional cost for the Bruce Community Facilities rating area. When you work that out, and that included GST, when you work that out in terms of additional operating costs for capital funding, that works out at $1.15 million. So that's 1.15 million of the dollars we're talking about there. In addition, on that consultation document, there was also an estimate of the additional operating costs, and that was based on looking at roughly what it would cost for the Balclutha pool, and that was an additional $12 on the UAGC and $61 on the Bruce Community Facilities rate. Those both include GST. So if you convert that to an annual cost, that was about $230,000. So what we consulted on was an additional $1.39 million worth of cost for capital and operating cost. So I think we're actually pretty close at the $1.5 million based on the consultation we took to the community, especially given that was 2 years ago and things have moved on since then. And that is based on the fixed cost for the pool of $19.4 million, which is still the target cost with the contractor for the delivery of the pool. So we're actually really, I think we're looking really consistent with what we told the community and where it's ended up.
So that new budget, what's the overall impact on the UAGC to all the properties? What does it work out at?
So what we
year two.
I'm not looking at the new budget. I'm looking at what we actually told the community, because we would have to go and recalculate it based on that. But what we told the community in 2024 was that the capital cost for the pool would be $73, including GST for all properties in the Clutha district, and $264, that includes the 73 for those properties in the Bruce community facilities rating area. And there was an additional provision for operating costs in that consultation document as well, based on an estimate using Clutha as a proxy.
273 including the Bruce.
Sorry, 264 was the Bruce facilities capital funding estimate, plus an additional 61 for people in the Bruce area. So that was a 300, and that was an increase on the additional cost of what it was costing us to run the Milton pool.
Additional on top of what they currently pay?
Yep.
What do they currently pay?
I'm not sure. We'd have to go and do the work on that. We haven't got that to hand. Sorry.
Anything else, councillors? Well, we're just at this point.
And does that correlate to the actual what's up there now? Can we split that?
I haven't absolutely checked all of that information, but if we were projecting $1.39 million of additional operating cost and the team are estimating about 1.5, to me, it'll take me just a couple of minutes to look at what we're currently rating for Milton, but I would have thought it cost us more than that amount to run it each year.
It's within the.
It's about where we said it was going to be,
as opposed to what you might have looked at initially and said, "Oh, this is major." When you look at it, it's actually within the bounds of what you'd expect from what was originally consulted on back in 2024.
So, sorry, Rog. So, George, just clarify. You're saying that it's within the parameters of what we consulted on back in 2024 in Milton.
Yes. A very quick estimate, because I haven't got exact UAGCs and everything, but using what is available in the annual plan, I've estimated about 1.39 million of operating cost was what we consulted on of extra for capital and operating costs for the new pool. And given we've landed about 1.55 to 1.6, it's within that. It's relatively close, because obviously the current cost of running the Milton pool had to be added on top of that. Those rates examples we gave were in addition to what the current pool was costing to run.
Is it possible that you could work with Mike and, like, not today, of course, but where we're at with what was consulted on and where Mike's landed with the operating budget?
Absolutely, we can.
Just for clarity purposes.
We can get probably the finance team could do that with Mike. All I've done is look at the consultation document and back calculate it, but hopefully the finance team's got some things in the background that relate to that.
I think a lot of that information would have been very fruitful today, looking at it, so that's thanks. Sorry, Councillor Cobb. Thank you.
Your Worship, just from memory, wasn't it around 120k, 130k we saved by closing the Milton pool? So that would have been
139.
Operating costs, add on to that figure.
Just to be clear, that's not all of the operating costs, that's only part of them. There are other operating costs within that.
You've got to remember, Roger, couldn't afford to run it then. Bit of a joke, isn't it?
Anything else for Mike while we're at this point?
2,000.
Right. Okay.
Not the other things.
Sorry,
There is one other option. That this is a 12 month of the year poll. And if Clotha needs that much work, then it's only a summertime poll. Why have two that you're running big dollars at?
yeah, we'll get the operating.
So councillor, that for an example would be, go out with the baseline AMP for the full level of service, 12 months, put out the savings associated with a different level of service. And that's exactly if we were looking for savings around things to put to the community around what they would like, then I would totally agree that we would expect to have something like that in the list of things that people can pick and choose. So, but we would see the full level of service being in the AMP and in the baseline, and we put the option out there, well, this is the savings if you want to change whatever you want to change. So makes sense that that's what we would do.
If the pool's only open 6 months of the year, the cost won't be half that price. There's still cost. There'll still be other.
Still a capital cost, there's all that side of things. But yes, people still want to see what is the marginal savings they might make for the loss of the, being made available. That's what people would expect.
If we, like when we get, we've only got a few more slides to go, but we actually talk about their councillor that, we're to provide direction on the proposed operational budget capital. So that'll come sooner than later, very shortly. And that's when we'll get the opportunity, like Holly's statement then about that obviously won't have the operational cost, but we can get that detail in the report. But for now, just let them get on with
With Clotha, we've kept basically the BAU for the operating budgets. However, the capital program for Clotha, we have focused on making sure renewals have been included. Over the last 6 weeks, we've had quite a few closures due to pump failures. We've got equipment that's 15 years old. There's a nice picture of a pipe there that failed that's probably closer to 60 years old. So we need to look at capital and Clotha. Milton, we don't expect to have any capital costs for quite some time.
that pipe looks like what we call sweating the asset. Been well sweated.
I think that resulted in about a week shutdown.
But it's now starting to steal.
Yeah.
That's part of the pipe is, but there's still other pipe work in the building. That's old, 60 years.
And that emphasises how critical it is to make sure that we're on top of our capital renewals and maintenance, just overall maintenance. Because a pool shut for wet, well, there's a week's income.
Yeah, well, we ended up unfortunately with about 2 in a row.
Yeah.
We only been open for about less than a week and unfortunately had another one. So in year one, we have put in the capital program a lot of work that's been deferred over the years. We had a condition assessment done in 2020. So anything that hasn't been done from then has been put in that year one and then spread out over to where it's been recommended going forward.
Very good.
So happy to take your direction on that, and that you wish capital program for government.
Well, like I say, if we don't do the maintenance, it's going to be, if its doors shut, it's going to be good for nobody. So, it's a stark reality of an asset.
Maintaining assets, your worship.
Has there been quite a lot of capital not being done in the last few years, because a lot of that stuff would have been just run of the mill stuff?
Which is just due to staff and a lot of it.
Cool. And I think your previous slide, you need to have Clutha at the bottom, not Milton, but it's only a typo, I think.
So in the last few years, there's only been an allowance in the prior LTP for the Clutha filtration system to be upgraded, which was done and completed, I think 18 months ago.
I'm not pointing the finger at anyone, but there's all been dropped somewhere along the line here that some of this maintenance.
I think a lot of deferrals have happened for various reasons.
Right.
And when we keep deferring,
Yeah,
it doesn't
right.
go away.
Yeah, oh, certainly the problems won't go away.
It's saving money.
Sure. But when we're looking at some of these figures here, they're not as exorbitant as others what we've been seeing today.
Your worship, I've got no issues, but can't keep kicking the can down the road on some of this stuff, so. It's got to be done.
Would everyone agree? Just they carry on with this capital program for the pool for now? Thank you.
Thanks. Of course.
Thank you, Ollie.
That's the most important thing. We won't leave it.
Right,
Thank
what was
you.
yours, Mike?
Okay, Paul's last. So this is the third part. Community facilities AMP. So same outcomes that we're after, please here. Although, sorry, just going back. Sorry, there isn't. No, there's no capital component to this. We'll talk about a little bit further. Slides. So again, background, we have 11 at this stage, council-owned halls, noting your recent decision around Lovell's Flat Hall, the demolition of that facility, noting that, I guess, just as a general comment, the condition of those remaining 10 council-owned halls varies considerably. Some are in much better nick than the others. So going back to February, we agreed to increase the resident satisfaction survey target to 95% from, I think it was 90, and that we would also assess the viability of some of these halls and carry on with the divestment process that we have underway. And also you asked for halls to be part of the rating review as well. So we haven't looked at that as part of this AMP. Sorry. So assumptions around halls, that the level of service at some halls will obviously continue to deteriorate given the lack of really any major capital renewal program. Some of them are, as I said, are in much better condition than others. That the usage at some halls as a result of that going to decline. But noting that there are some, Waka is a good example, Clutha Valley I think is another one, where they get pretty good usage still. That we're assuming that the remaining hall committees remain in place to manage the day-to-day operations, bookings, etc., and that we're going to continue to implement that your previous direction to divest hall as we can, noting that that can be a long drawn-out process. So next slide, please, Peter. The green. So this is the operating budget that we proposed in the AMP for halls. The increases are just due to inflation, as I said, to basically from our last actuals data, which is 24-25, through to year one of the LTP. So really, there's no significant increases there. Really, I'll just note in the report. The green cell there had $409,000 for the overall hall. I'm sorry, Councillor Cathwood, that was the typo. That actually should be 40, consistent through there, year 1, 2, and 3. So, yeah, happy to
Dean.
Mike, you got money more here for 2 years. Are we gonna keep running it?
Good question through you, Your Worship. So what we're assuming here, I should take that off, that assumption is that we're going to continue with that divestment program across all halls, working with some of the, I dare to say, lower hanging fruit.
Yes.
So that's at both ends, right? So Moneymore is, I guess, one that we would assume that we will be looking to divest that next. Really, that's the one that we'll look at. And I've given it another 2 years. If we can do it quicker, we will, and so on and so forth. We haven't taken levels flat out, obviously, because that's going to be gone. Some of those others may well drop off as well.
Well, the only reason I asked that is, like, I don't even think indoor bowls is using it anymore.
No,
because
it's not used.
A bit of a lean.
It's not used anymore.
No.
Councillor McAtamney.
Yeah, I would go as far as if we're going to do any concentrating on that, and those two halls, Moneymore and Paratai, get consulted on shutting them down, divesting them.
You've had a look at Moneymore, haven't you, Simon?
Leave it on, yeah. I was just curious the other day, I was coming back from Milton and I had to ring Dean because I wasn't actually sure that I was seeing a hole. Is this it? Yeah.
Yeah. Councillor Cotton.
Sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
Okay, thank you, Your Worship. I've got a question just around funds built up in some of these individual hall accounts. So I see, I'll take one in my own area, Waitahuna, and the cost to obviously run that's about 17 or 18 grand a year. Yet it's got special funds of 350,000 in the bank, according to what I get sent. So what are those special funds for, and should we be drawing down on a portion of that for maintenance and that sort of thing?
They have land that's raised.
Yeah, there's an endowment land that's linked directly to the Waitahuna Hall, so that income is from that land. And they use it when they do capital work. They don't tend to use it for operating costs, but yes, they have got a lot of money sitting there, and it's when they do need to do work, there's no issue with them having the money. It's linked directly to that hall, has to be used for that hall.
Yeah, well, that's good, but can it not be used for operating costs or a portion of it?
We would have to look at the rules and probably have a chat with them, but yeah, I'm not sure. We'd have to check what the requirements around that endowment or whatever it was that link it to them.
So, just to further Your Worship, so if council decided to divest, say, this hall in particular, those funds would go with it. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Question, Jules, you'll probably be able to answer it. So the increased operating budget, that money is actually rated by the community of interest, or is that Mike's role? Good.
So, yeah, there's not an individual community of interest for each hall, so it's just whatever community interest it falls in, 50% over that community of interest, 50% over the UAGC.
Yeah. Questions?
I suppose the only extra direction is to make a decision, get this decision sorted, and get this question out there. And the halls at Lovell's, was it Lovell's Flat? Oh, no, that's Moneymore. Sorry, Moneymore and Paratai. I mean, they're costing the ratepayer. Putting them for what?
He's probably
not bold. Sold.
I agree.
But you've got a short period.
That's the direction.
Through you, Your Worship, just related to that. So we're coming to you in September for another workshop on community-owned facilities. So that includes halls and pools. And we're developing a funding model, or a way of to fund those facilities for you, for your consideration. The benefit of that, I guess, is that what if that works, if you approve the model that we're going to put in front of you, then that would give us something concrete to take to these hall committees and saying, right, this is what works for community-owned halls. This is what they get. This is how it worked for you. So they would have a really good understanding of how council would fund them going forward, and that would help to speed up, I would hope, the divestment process one way or the other.
Question, Mike, have these halls had recent building assessment reports?
Not recently. Yes. Were they all done in 2020? No.
All done in 2020. So would that building assessment report not tell the story, like, of where the investment levels should be going? Because as we all know, if you're throwing good money after bad, what's the point? You know, we're just going to wake up and face facts.
Oh,
that's the start reality of it. You're not going to keep spending money on an old car, keeps breaking down on you all the time, are you? You upgrade it or you get rid of it. So I think a building assessment report would be a good baseline to see where the level of investment it needs to be going moving forward.
Through your worship, I mean, I guess that was 6 years ago, and the world has changed a bit. Some of those halls got some significant funding from the Provincial Growth Fund. At the end was one, Point, etc. So there has been some lot of work done in some cases. Some missed out, unfortunately. And I guess in other cases, you know, where you've got more proactive hall committees or existing funds, then I guess they are really making more of an effort to maintain those facilities.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, you're right. Those reports paint a good picture of it.
They'll paint the picture, but when you've got two on your list here that say poor, so would you not focus on two? Because I know that getting a report's not a cheap exercise.
That's exactly what we're doing. Is we're focused on levels flat, and we're looking at money more.
So you've got building assessment reports coming for them?
No.
You need to. You've made the building assessment report yourselves?
But we know that you just have to look at money more.
Paratime, you hit one, didn't you? You've got an old one.
Yeah, you saw that a couple of weeks ago.
And you can physically see it.
Yeah, that's right.
What are we doing?
We don't really want to.
Don't bowl it. Sell it. Come on, it shouldn't be bowling bloody levels flat. It should be sold. Create a rate payer. Get rid of the asset. Money in the bank. Invest it. It's net down.
Yeah,
So simple.
Yeah, but
Steve,
so your worship, I mean, if we had ultimate authority, we weren't answerable to anybody, so we weren't answerable to the community, we would just go and do exactly that. But why things have slowed down is that, you know, we have been talking to the communities, haven't we? And so that's why it wasn't as simple as process as that.
The other issue, your worship, is that all those halls sit on gazetted preserved land.
Yes.
So that is quite a process. You can't just, you know, you can sell the asset, but it's still going to sit on council land.
Councillor Graham.
Most of them.
When we consult on these halls, that goes to the community of interest, the wider community of interest. So if we look at, say, Paratite, for example, and the people concerned with Paratite at the moment probably count them on two hands. So when we consult, it would go to the wider area, including Kaka Point, etc., wouldn't it? Would I be right?
Community of interest.
Yeah. So, and they're going, if we include the assessment report, and if I was living at Kaka Point, I've got a hall at Kaka Point. I've also got a pretty good one just down the road in Belclutha, and here's this assessment report that says it's got to have $150,000 spent on it before it even comes up to any sort of standard. And am I willing to have so much put on my rates to do that? I know how the consultation is going to finish, and that'll make it a lot clearer and easier for all of us. So that's it.
That's it. Love it.
So
Is that it?
It's us.
Oh, Dane, have you got your hand up? Or?
No.
Oh, yeah. No, well, I think that's about it, Mike.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dylan, Cosmos.
Last one now, your worship.
Is the additional workshop proposed by Peter or Steve? Who would like to speak to this?
Well, we just simply identified that we didn't think the debate over overheads was going to be able to be held within the existing workshops that are rapidly filling up, and it deserved its own time. So that's what we're proposing.
Well,
Half a day on it.
We scratched the surface today.
No, it'll come with models, because it's got to be modelled. Overheads have to be modelled. It's a principal thing for which we then can apply figures. Everything will hinge on what you decide in terms of that. We can give some indication of what it might affect.
There's a couple of figures.
Councillor McIntyre.
Yeah, I'm prepared to offer a slightly different view on this. I'm pretty interested for quite a, or was pretty interested for quite a while on this overhead model, how it all works out. But I'm actually wondering what the point of it is, especially considering the item coming up next. In all reality, will be part of some sort of unitary council in either 2 or 5 years' time. I'm just questioning why go to all this workload to try and understand it and maybe change it when a new unitary will have to come up with some of its own model in the future. Just how it allocates how
It's a significant cost.
it is, but the cost is still there.
We've got to deal with residual overheads and things like that with the Three Waters. The model we currently have isn't fit for purpose. We know that because we get all the questions about it. We would have done this ourselves 2 or 3 years ago if we could have. So it underpins everything. I mean, at the end of the day, once you determine what your overhead generating costs are, they've got to be allocated somewhere, and that has an impact, absolute impact on the activity.
But if it doesn't change the percentage as much, if we knew that, is it worth doing? If that was just basically modelled now, and if it doesn't actually, like the numbers will change for each thing, but if it doesn't really change percentages for each allocation, what I'm saying is it's probably going to be redundant. It's quite different to cutting costs. This is about allocation.
What's the example? Maybe it's been taken from the wrong spot. The example could be your rating. I can't remember what it was now, but the Bell Clifford Pool's got overhead sitting in there.
I know.
400,000. Is it? So is that coming from the right spot? Where does the cost of the overhead lie? The code, where it actually lies. Coding. The right people that are using that.
I know, but I'm just saying is it's a large body of work, and I'm just questioning whether everything going on with council, whatever model we choose may actually be redundant in a reasonably short period of time.
Well, we could not do anything and just apply the old one on that basis. I think we were taking the feeling from the council when you had to look at any particular budgets and you saw this figure and you said, that seems a bit unrealistic for this particular activity, and you had no input into that before, right? So you signalled previously that you wanted input into how that was to be allocated out, and that's why we were we can do the overhead model ourselves as staff if we really wanted to. A lot of councils do because it's a sort of allocation models, general principles. But we said and promised that we would involve you in it. Now you can choose not to, and that's fine. We'll get on and make a change.
It's just that life is changing quite quickly. That's why I'm suggesting that. Yeah.
No, I'd rather see it.
Councillor McIntyre. Cotton, sorry.
Thank you, Your Honour. Steve, so will you do it for staff anyway?
No, I mean, if we If we left the model as it is, we would be trying to allocate according to what we've currently got, and that's all we would do. Obviously there'll be changes because the Three Waters isn't sucking up that anymore. But we could use the model. We as staff already we agree and identify ourselves that it's not fit for purpose, and when we would have intended to have changed it.
So where I was going with that is, if you're going to do some of that work, could you just share it with us? And if you think councillors think they need a workshop on it, then we could go down that track, or not? Is that not?
Well, we haven't started anything because we need because the discussions we've had with council is like back to basics and finance 101, and we need to know what you're thinking. Otherwise, we'd go ahead and do something and you wouldn't have been involved in it.
Yes, I understand.
So that will be the 17th of September.
Yeah, sorry,
not the Sunday. Not coming on
If I can, through you, Your Worship, I had a bit of a chat with Sharon about this yesterday, and I think she was going to have some initial discussions with her portfolio leads in the first case, just about some ideas and get some feedback from them, and then if we need to have a workshop that could potentially follow that. She's probably watching at the moment, but that was the initial discussion. So if the portfolio leads do have some time to sort of have a bit of a run through with some options, we could get a bit of feedback and then develop some things from there and potentially bring that back either via email or a short workshop. But we want to be really clear that you guys are comfortable with the basis, because we don't want to be putting up budgets and you go, why is there that much for internal others for that activity? So that's why we want to just run through those principles at the very least, so you understand what's proposed and how it works.
Thank you for that, Jules. And personally myself, I think we should continue with it. There's nothing wrong with a bit of hard work, Mr. Councillor McAtamney. Don't be scared of a bit of work. It won't hurt you. I think, and the time is now, the constituents want to have questions answered. So how better position could we be in to help them answer those questions or being involved in this process?
There are other councils that...
Excuse me, Councillor, I haven't finished yet. Oh, you're all right.
Probably Steve, but is it correct that Queenstown Lakes, they have a rating for that very purpose, don't they? Like a separate rate for the capture of those overheads, don't they?
I have no idea myself.
Yeah, I think there's examples out there of other councils that just capture what their actual figure is.
I think
rate for that accordingly.
I think Sharon has mentioned there are other councils who have a general rate, which some of that is for just rating for their overheads. But our philosophy is all of our support services and those things that are provided get allocated out to activities that deliver services, and they get rated through those services. So that's where we lose one of those major services, being our Three Waters. That all needs to be reviewed again to look at how that gets allocated across.
Yeah, so I'm more than happy to see this come out, and then it could be a matter of, through this LTP process, is to somehow how that piece gets funded. So it's just open and it's there, it's transparent. It's not what does it randomly end up.
Again, I come back to my very first point that things are about to change, and if we could do a basic model, and if the percentages for each thing don't shift a lot, then why go deep into it? If we're going to be part of a completely new unit group, which we probably will be in either 2 or 5 years' time, when it's probably going to get rehashed anyway, because they'll have their own method of rating for every service that we have.
Staff could do a model
and
present a model if that's what you want. But we were taking
but if
feeling of council.
If there's major discrepancies on those percentages, if you like, then perhaps we should look at it. But if not,
Councillor Cox.
Thank you, Your Worship. So getting back to what Jules, I think, said, so how about we leave it with the portfolio leads and Sharon to have a chat about it and put some scenarios up, and then we go from there.
Well, like I say, councillor Cotton, I'm very keen for it to go forward, so without the two portfolio leads having a chat about it, it's either would show the direction.
Your worship, we can put it in the diary at least, and then see how things develop.
17th of September.
17th, yes.
Through you, your worship, it's actually the 10th.
10th.
It's 3 different dates up there.
I've got nothing on that day, Job.
Pardon?
I've got nothing on that day.
Beautiful, mate. You're not scared of a bit of work, I know that, councillor Graham, so.
So we will build it in to the diaries, confirm it in the diaries. Portfolio.
That was an empty week.
Portfolio
Oh, was
leads
it?
will work with Sharon, and we can update as we go. There's a workshop before that. And then we'll just see that confirming.
Yep, lovely.
And then that would be this done, your worship.
Councillor Graham, he's not scared of work, he'll walk right up to it and poke it with a stick.
That won't be.
Right, we better close the workshop before our next late item. It's not a late item.
So
There is a late item.
you